If your mind were a room, what would it sound like right now? Is it a quiet sanctuary, a space of calm reflection, or is it filled with the ceaseless, low hum of 1,000 unfinished conversations, 1,000 anxieties buzzing like trapped birds against a window pane? For so many of us, this inner room is not a place of rest. It is a busy, noisy thoroughfare, haunted by the ghosts of yesterday and the phantoms of tomorrow. There is a collective exhaustion in the air, a quiet desperation felt not just by you, but by countless others lying awake in the dark, searching for an escape from the relentless monologue of their own thoughts. You are not alone in this feeling, this sense of being adrift in a sea of noise, obligations, and digital echoes. We carry the weight of a future that has not yet arrived, rehearsing tragedies that may never unfold, and we are shackled to a past that we can no longer change, replaying scenes in the futile hope of a different outcome. This audiobook is not another voice to add to the noise. It is an invitation to silence. It is a key to a different kind of room, a quiet harbor where your ship can find refuge from the storm. Here, there are no demands. There is nothing to achieve, nothing to fix. You are simply invited to be, to listen, and to allow a different kind of wisdom to permeate the soil of your consciousness. We are about to begin a gentle journey inward, away from the chaos and toward a profound stillness. This is a space to prepare your mind for deep, restorative rest, to let go of the burdens you were never meant to carry, and to remember the peace that has always been waiting for you, just beneath the surface of the noise. Let us begin by turning our attention to the quality of our own inner atmosphere. Before any great storm of panic, before any crashing wave of fear, there is almost always something more subtle, more pervasive. It is a hum, a low-grade, ceaseless vibration in the background of your being. It is not loud enough to be a scream, but it is too persistent to be ignored. It is the engine of anxiety, left running in the garage of the mind, its fumes slowly, imperceptibly seeping into every room. This hum is the feeling that you have forgotten something important, but you cannot remember what. It is the quiet tension in your jaw, your shoulders, your stomach, that you only notice when you consciously think to release it. It is the endless scroll of a mental checklist, a list of tasks, worries, and potential failures that refreshes itself even as you sleep. It is the energy that makes true rest feel impossible, that makes silence feel unsettling, that makes stillness feel like a waste of precious time. This hum is not a single entity. It is a tapestry woven from 1,000 tiny threads. A thread of worry about an email you have yet to send. A thread of regret about a word you said yesterday. A thread of apprehension about a bill that is due next week. A thread of self-consciousness about how you are perceived by others. Individually, each thread is light as a feather, almost weightless. But woven together, day after day, they create a heavy, suffocating blanket that smothers your vitality and colors your entire experience of life. It drains your power, subtly, constantly. It is the reason you can feel exhausted even after a full night of sleep, the reason you can feel disconnected even when surrounded by people you love. This hum creates a filter over your perception so that you see the world not as it is, but through a lens of faint, constant threat. It whispers that you are not safe, that you must remain vigilant, that to relax is to invite disaster. It is the ultimate thief of joy, stealing the simple pleasure of the present moment by insisting that your attention must always be somewhere else. And here lies a profound and difficult paradox. We long for silence, we crave a moment of true inner peace, yet we are subconsciously terrified of what would happen if the hum were to stop. The mind has become addicted to its own noise. It has mistaken the vibration of anxiety for the feeling of being alive and in control. A part of you believes that this hum is a necessary function, a protective shield. It believes that if the constant worrying ceases, you will miss a crucial detail, you will drop one of the many balls you are juggling, and everything will come crashing down. So you unconsciously feed it. You allow the mind to chew on old grievances and future fears because the activity itself provides a strange, distorted kind of comfort. The noise feels like a form of protection. The state of vigilance feels like a state of readiness. We have been conditioned to believe that a quiet mind is an unproductive mind, a vulnerable mind. And so, we resist the very peace we seek, caught in a tragic conflict between the soul's deep longing for stillness and the ego's terrified, clinging to the familiar noise of its own suffering. This self-perpetuating cycle is much like the feedback loop created when a microphone is held too close to a speaker. A single, small thought arises. Perhaps I hope I don't make a mistake in that meeting tomorrow. This thought, this initial sound, is captured by the microphone of your awareness and amplified by the speaker of your emotional body, producing a feeling of nervousness. Your mind then perceives this new, amplified signal, the nervousness itself, and generates another thought about it. Why am I so nervous? I am always like this. I am going to fail. This second thought is then fed back into the system, amplified into a stronger feeling of anxiety, which in turn generates even more catastrophic thoughts. And so the loop continues, a high-pitched, draining whine of self-generated, self-amplified noise. It seems to come from nowhere, and yet it is everywhere. It has no single cause, yet it consumes all your energy. It is the sound of the mind feeding on itself. But now, I invite you to consider a truth that can break this spell. This hum is not you. The noise is not you. You are not the feedback loop. You are not the weather pattern of anxiety that passes through your inner world. You are the sky. You are the vast, silent, and spacious awareness in which the entire storm takes place. The darkest cloud, the most violent thunder, the most jarring bolt of lightning can never stain, scar, or diminish the sky. The sky simply holds it all, allows it all to be, and remains untouched. Its fundamental nature is peace. Its fundamental nature is silence. The hum of anxiety is an event that is happening within you, but it is not the truth of you. You are the awareness that perceives the hum. And in the space created by that simple recognition, there is freedom. The moment you realize you are the sky and not the storm begins to lose its power over you. It may still rage for a time, but you are no longer lost within it. You are watching it from a place of deep, unshakable safety. To cultivate this awareness, we do not need a complex strategy. We do not need to fight the hum, to argue with it, or to force it into submission. Fighting the noise only creates more noise. Instead, we can employ a practice of profound simplicity and gentleness. It is the practice of naming. When you become aware of the hum, when you notice the familiar tension tightening its grip on your body and mind, you simply acknowledge it. You give it a name. Without judgment, without fear, without any desire to change it, you say to yourself, silently, "Ah, the hum is here," or simply, "worry," or "This is the feeling of anxiety." The tone is crucial. It is not an alarm. It is not a sigh of defeat. It is a tone of neutral, even friendly recognition. Imagine you are a scientist observing a natural phenomenon, or that you are simply noticing a familiar bird has landed on your windowsill. Ah, there it is again. That is all. This simple act of naming is extraordinarily powerful. It is the fulcrum upon which your entire relationship with anxiety can pivot. Because the moment you name it, you are no longer unconsciously identified with it. To name something is to see it as separate from yourself. In that instant, you have stepped out of the feedback loop. You have pulled the microphone away from the speaker. You are no longer the thought, and you are no longer the emotion. You are the silent watcher, the calm awareness that is noticing the thought, noticing the emotion. The hum is starved of its fuel, which is your unconscious belief that it is you. When you name it, it is no longer an intimate part of your identity. It is just an object, a vibration, a pattern of energy that you are observing as it passes through the vast sky of your being. Do not expect the hum to vanish immediately. The goal for now is not eradication. The goal is recognition. The goal is the creation of space. Each time you notice the hum and gently name it, you are strengthening a new neural pathway. You are building a new habit of disidentification. You are reclaiming your territory from the unconscious patterns of fear. You are training yourself to reside in the sky, not in the storm. So, as you rest here, simply listen. Listen for that background hum, that subtle static. Do not be discouraged if you find it. In fact, finding it is the first success. And when you do, simply greet it with a quiet inner nod. Ah, there you are. Let it be. Let it vibrate. And notice, in the space behind that recognition, the vast, silent, peaceful sky that is your true home. You are not the noise. You are the stillness that hears it. Now, let us examine one of the primary sources that feeds the ceaseless hum of anxiety. It is the mind's restless, relentless projection into a time that does not exist. It is the tyranny of tomorrow. We have become a culture of people who live in a perpetual state of anticipation. Our minds perpetually camped out in the future, sifting through an endless series of what-if scenarios. We sacrifice the felt reality of this moment, the only moment we will ever have, for a phantom world of our own creation. This is more than just planning. It is a form of self-imposed exile. We have banished ourselves from the present, choosing to inhabit a mental landscape of potential problems, imagined confrontations, and hypothetical disasters. We tell ourselves this is practical, that this is responsible preparation, but in truth, it is a prison whose walls are built from the bricks of fear and whose bars are forged from the illusion that we can control the uncontrollable. This forward-leaping tendency is the ego's grand strategy for survival. In a universe that is fundamentally uncertain and constantly in flux, the ego seeks security by trying to map out every possibility. It operates under the deeply flawed assumption that if it can just think enough, worry enough, and strategize enough, it can create a future that is safe and predictable. It engages in a process of constant negative rehearsal. You lay in bed at night and your mind does not rest. It runs simulations. It rehearses the difficult conversation you need to have next week, playing out every awkward pause and potential angry response. It pictures the presentation you must give, imagining every possible question you might not be able to answer, every way you might fail. It fast-forwards to a potential illness, a financial downturn, a loss. You experience the emotional and physiological reality of these imagined events as if they were happening right now. Your heart rate increases, your muscles tense, stress hormones flood your system, all in response to a ghost, a fabrication of your own mind. The ego believes this is a protective act, but it is an act of profound self-harm. You are paying the price for a catastrophe that has not, and most likely will not, ever occur. Herein lies a conflict that tears at the fabric of our peace. There is a clear and practical need to plan for the future. It is intelligent to set goals, to save money, to make appointments. The distinction we must learn is between the healthy act of planning for the future and the toxic habit of living in the future. Planning is a focused activity performed in the present moment. You sit down, you assess the situation, you make a decision, you create a plan, and then you let it go, returning your attention to the life that is in front of you. Living in the future, however, is a chronic state of being. It is a constant mental distraction, a state of absence from your own life. It is when you are having a conversation with a loved one, but your mind is actually in next week's meeting. It is when you are eating a meal, but you are not tasting the food because you are consumed with thoughts about tomorrow's errands. This chronic absence is the ultimate saboteur of happiness. We tell ourselves, I will be happy when I get that promotion, or I will be able to relax once this project is over. But the very habit of living in the future ensures that when that future moment arrives, our mind will have already moved on, already fixated on the next milestone, the next potential problem. Peace becomes a finish line that we are perpetually moving further away. Imagine you are standing at the edge of the sea, looking out at the horizon. The horizon is a beautiful, inspiring line. It gives a sense of direction, of vastness, of possibility. But the horizon is not a place you can travel to. It is an optical effect, an illusion created by perspective. You could sail for 1,000 years and you would never reach it. By its very nature, it recedes as you approach. The future is this horizon. Chasing it is an act of utter futility. We spend our lives running towards this imaginary line, believing that our happiness and security reside there. We run with such focus and desperation that we fail to notice the extraordinary reality beneath our own 2 feet. We fail to feel the solid, warm sand, the cool water washing over our ankles, the gentle breeze on our skin. We ignore the entire, vibrant, 3-dimensional reality of the beach we are on, all for the sake of chasing a 1-dimensional line that we can never, ever reach. The present moment is this beach. It is the only solid ground you will ever know. This leads us to the essential, liberating insight. The future has no reality whatsoever, except as a thought that is happening in your mind right now. It is a mental projection, a story, a phantom. All the immense weight of your anxiety about tomorrow, all the detailed scenarios and catastrophic fears are composed of nothing more than thought. And you are experiencing those thoughts in the only time that exists, now. When you are worrying about the future, you are not engaging with the future. You are simply allowing an imagined fear to contaminate the sanctity of your present moment. The true point of power is not in trying to manipulate a future that doesn't exist. The true point of power lies in mastering your attention in the moment that does. The most effective way to prepare for tomorrow is not to be lost in worry about it, but to be fully, peacefully, and powerfully present today. A present moment lived with awareness and clarity is the seed of a future that will grow from that same quality. A present lived in the turmoil of anxiety can only ever create a future born of that same turmoil. So how do we break this spell? How do we stop chasing the horizon and learn to feel the ground? The tool is not complicated. It is not something you must acquire. It is something you already possess. It is the anchor of the breath. When you notice that your mind has left the building of the present moment, when you feel it racing ahead into the labyrinth of what if, the instruction is simple. You do not fight the thought. You do not scold yourself. You simply and gently shift your entire field of attention to the physical, felt sensation of a single breath. Just one. Give this single breath your complete, undivided focus, as if it were the most important event in the universe. Feel the cool air as it enters your nostrils, follow its path down into your lungs. Notice the subtle expansion of your chest and belly. Feel the brief, still pause at the very peak of the inhalation. And then, follow the sensation as the warm air leaves your body, as your muscles soften and release. That single conscious breath is an anchor. It is an emergency brake for the runaway mind. It instantly pulls you out of the phantom world of the future and drops you back into the undeniable, physical reality of your own body, here and now. This practice, though it seems small, is a revolutionary act. Each time you notice your mind has drifted into the future and you gently bring it back with the anchor of a single breath, you are performing an act of liberation. You are casting a vote for the present moment. You are consciously weakening the deep neurological grooves of worry and strengthening the pathways of presence. You are training your mind with immense kindness that its home base is not in the imagined future, but in the felt reality of the now. It is a gentle rebellion against the tyranny of tomorrow. It is a quiet declaration that your peace in this moment is more valuable than solving a problem that does not exist. Do not underestimate its power. When the mind begins its anxious gallop toward the horizon, simply stop. Do not engage. Do not analyze. Just feel one breath. And then, once that is complete, feel another. You are not abandoning your future. You are abandoning your obsession with it. By ceasing your frantic chase of the horizon, you are finally giving yourself permission to experience the profound beauty and reality of the ground on which you stand. You are returning home to the only place where your life ever was and ever will be, unfolding. If the mind has a habit of leaping forward into the phantom world of tomorrow, it has an equally powerful and equally destructive habit of being dragged backward into the tomb of yesterday. This is the other ghost that haunts our inner room. It is the ghost of the past. For many of us, the past is not a library of lessons from which we wisely draw. It is a haunted house we compulsively revisit, walking its corridors at night, deliberately seeking out the rooms where our greatest pains are stored. We press play on old conversations, old mistakes, old humiliations. The mind becomes a cinema that shows only reruns of our failures and our hurts. It is the moment you said the wrong thing, magnified and played on a loop. It is the opportunity you missed, presented in agonizing detail. It is the wound inflicted by another, kept fresh and bleeding through the power of your own constant attention. We tell ourselves that we are thinking about the past, but that is rarely true. We are letting the past think us, allowing its old programs to run our present reality. We must ask ourselves a crucial question: why? Why does the mind, which seeks pleasure and avoids pain, so compulsively return to what hurts it most? The answer lies once again in the ego's desperate search for a solid identity. The ego is a storyteller, and it builds our sense of self from the stories it tells. A story of failure can be a very powerful identity. I am the one who always makes a mess of things. A story of victimhood can be even more potent. I am the one who was deeply wronged, whose trust was betrayed. These stories, though painful, give the ego a sense of definition, a solid shape in the world. And so, the mind becomes a museum curator, obsessively preserving and polishing the exhibits of its own suffering. It is not learning from the past, it is embalming it. It is a subtle and tragic form of self-flagellation, the act of picking at an old wound, not to cleanse it, but to reassure yourself that it is still there, that the story of your pain is still true, and therefore that the identity you have built around that pain is still solid. This creates a deep and exhausting internal conflict. On one level, your conscious self, your soul, longs to move on. It desires freedom, peace, and the lightness of being that comes from a heart free of old burdens. Yet, on another level, there is a powerful gravitational pull back to the familiar pain, an almost addictive compulsion to reopen the old files. It is the psychic equivalent of revisiting the scene of a crime. We return to the moment of our mistake, the moment of our hurt, and we try to alter it. In the theater of our minds, we rewrite the script. We say the witty comeback we couldn't think of at the time. We make the wiser choice we failed to make. We fight back when we once froze. We do this over and over, seeking a different outcome, a resolution that can never be found because the event itself is over. This futile mental exercise does not heal the past. It only deepens the neurological groove of the original pain, etching it more permanently into our being. We are caught between the desire to be free and the compulsion to relive our own imprisonment. The most accurate metaphor for this condition is that of a heavy backpack. Imagine that at the moment of your birth, you were given a light, empty backpack. And throughout your life, for every regret you failed to process, for every mistake you refused to forgive yourself for every resentment against another that you chose to hold on to, You have picked up a small stone and placed it in the bag. At first, the weight is negligible, but over years and decades, the stones accumulate. The weight becomes immense. It is the first thing you feel in the morning and the last thing you feel at night. It slows your pace on the journey of life. It makes every hill feel like a mountain. It exhausts you, it bows your shoulders, it keeps your eyes fixed on the ground in front of you instead of on the vast sky above. We become so accustomed to this burden that we forget what it feels like to walk without it. We begin to believe that this heavy bag of stones is not something we are carrying, but that it is a part of us, inseparable from our own body. We mistake our baggage for our identity. Now, here is the truth that can allow you to set that backpack down forever. The past does not exist. It is gone. It is an expired moment, a cancelled check, a scent that has faded from the air. It has no substance, no reality, and no power over you whatsoever. The pain you feel right now is not coming from the past. It is coming from a thought about the past that is arising in your consciousness in this present moment. What you are experiencing is not the event itself, but a memory of it, a ghost, a story, a pattern of energy flickering on the screen of your awareness. It feels so solid, so heavy, so real, but it is made of thought, the most ephemeral and transient substance in the universe. And this realization changes everything. It means you are not a helpless victim of history. It means you are not holding a 10-ton boulder of an event. You are simply holding a thought, and any thought, no matter how painful, no matter how persistent, can be put down. The power is not in the past. The power is in your hands, right now, in your ability to choose where you place your attention. You can choose to keep picking up the stone of that memory, or you can choose to let it lie on the ground and walk on. To help you in this sacred act of release, there is a simple and beautiful ritual you can practice, especially in the quiet moments before sleep, when the veil between the conscious and subconscious mind is thin. Close your eyes. Take a few slow, deep breaths, and in your mind's eye, imagine yourself standing on the shore of a vast, calm ocean at twilight. The water is still as glass, reflecting the soft colors of the fading sun. At the water's edge, a small, empty boat is waiting for you. Now, turn your attention to the heavy backpack on your shoulders. Reach in and pull out one of the stones. It might be a memory of a harsh word you spoke. It might be the face of someone who hurt you. It might be a feeling of shame about a past failure. Look at this stone. Acknowledge it without judgment. See it clearly for what it is. A painful memory you have been carrying. You might even silently thank it for any lesson it has taught you about strength, resilience, or compassion. And then, with a clear and conscious intention to release it, place that stone gently into the boat. Continue this process. Take out another stone, another resentment, another regret. Acknowledge it and place it in the boat. Fill the boat with all the heavy burdens you have been carrying. When you feel that the backpack is empty, that you have unburdened yourself, turn your attention to the boat. It now holds the weight that you once carried. Place your hands on its bow and give it a gentle push out into the calm, vast ocean. Watch as it drifts away from the shore. It makes no sound. It creates no wake. It simply floats, silently, out toward the horizon. Watch it as it gets smaller and smaller and smaller still, until it is just a tiny speck that finally dissolves into the immensity of the water and the twilight. It is gone. Its weight is gone. And with it, the energy it held is returned to the universe, neutralized. Feel the lightness in your own body. Feel the absence of the weight on your shoulders. Stand on that shore and breathe in the clean, salt air of a present moment free from the ghosts of yesterday. This ritual is the practice of true forgiveness. We often think forgiveness is a gift we give to the person who wronged us, an act that somehow condones their behavior. This is a misunderstanding. Forgiveness is a gift you give to yourself. It is the act of cancelling a painful debt that you have been forcing yourself to collect. It is the decision to stop drinking a poison of resentment that you have been mixing for yourself every day. Forgiveness, especially for yourself, is the ultimate act of self-love. It is you finally saying, "I will no longer punish myself for what is already over. I will no longer allow the past to steal the peace of my present." Every time you release a stone into that boat, you are severing an energetic cord that has kept you tethered to pain. You are not erasing history, you are liberating yourself from it. You are choosing to learn from the past without being imprisoned by it. You are choosing to carry the lesson, but to finally set down the stone. Having journeyed into the phantom lands of tomorrow and the haunted corridors of yesterday, we arrive now at the very root of this suffering. There is a common thread that pulls the mind into these painful, non-existent realms. It is the deep, primal, and profoundly human urge to be in control. This is perhaps the most fundamental illusion that governs an anxious life. It is the unspoken belief that if we can just manage, arrange, predict, and manipulate the variables of our existence, we can insulate ourselves from pain and guarantee our own safety. We act as if life is a complex piece of machinery that we can master if we just read the manual closely enough. But life is not a machine. It is a wild, unpredictable, and sacred mystery. Our attempts to control it are the very source of the tension that drains our vitality and steals our peace. This need for control casts the mind in the role of an anxious general, perpetually hunched over a map in a war room, trying to anticipate every move of an enemy that doesn't exist. The mind micromanages everything. It scrutinizes other people's words, searching for hidden meanings and future threats. It endlessly rearranges our schedule, our finances, our relationships, seeking a perfect configuration that will finally allow us to relax. This constant mental effort creates an immense and exhausting tension that reverberates throughout the body. It is the tightness in your chest as you try to force a situation to go your way. It is the clenched jaw as you suppress what you really want to say in order to manage someone else's perception of you. It is the knot in your stomach as you lie awake, trying to solve a problem that is not yours to solve. We are trying to force the great, meandering, powerful river of life into a perfectly straight, narrow, concrete channel of our own making. And the sheer effort required for this impossible task is what we experience as chronic anxiety. This leads to a profound internal conflict, a war waged within ourselves. There is a part of us, the instinctual ego, that believes letting go is the equivalent of death. To this part of our psyche, relinquishing control feels like giving up, like surrendering to chaos, like becoming a passive victim of circumstance. When life presents us with uncertainty, the ego's immediate, reflexive response is to tighten its grip. It frantically tries to nail everything down, to secure the perimeter, to eliminate all doubt. Yet, at the same time, a deeper, wiser part of you, your soul, knows that this very act of tightening is the source of the pain. It knows that true safety does not lie in a rigid grip, but in a graceful release. You are torn between the terrifying, liberating truth that most of life is utterly beyond your control and the primal instinct to manage everything in a desperate attempt to feel safe. It is the clash between the fear of the unknown and the dawning realization that our frantic efforts to control it are precisely what prevent us from navigating it with wisdom and grace. Let us introduce a new metaphor to bring clarity to this struggle. Imagine that your life is a ship, and you are its captain. This ship is sailing on a vast, unpredictable ocean. This ocean is life itself. You are not the captain of the ocean. You cannot command the winds to cease. You cannot order the waves to be still. You cannot predict with certainty when a storm will arise or when the sun will shine. To stand on the deck of your ship and scream at the storm, to demand that it obey you, is an act of pure insanity. Yet, This is precisely what we are doing when we try to control external events, when we demand that other people act a certain way, when we insist that life unfolds according to our specific plans. We are screaming at the storm. This realization does not mean you are powerless. It means your power lies elsewhere. You are the captain of the ship. You have domain over your own vessel. You can choose to raise the sails to catch the wind or lower them to ride out the storm. You can turn the rudder to change your direction. Your power is not in controlling the ocean, but in skillfully and wisely navigating your ship through the conditions you are given. The master sailor is not one who has found a perpetually calm sea, but one who knows how to sail with courage and skill in any weather. The core of this wisdom, the secret to becoming a master sailor of your own life, is to be less like a rock and more like water. A rock meets the force of the river with rigid resistance. It stands firm, it holds its ground, and for a time it may seem strong, but under enough pressure, its very rigidity becomes its weakness. It cracks, it breaks, it shatters. This is the path of forceful control. We resist life, we brace against it, and eventually we break. Water, on the other hand, embodies a different kind of power. It is soft, yielding, and adaptable. It never fights an obstacle head-on. If it meets a rock, it does not try to smash it. It simply flows around it. It finds the path of least resistance. It yields, and in its yielding, it is unstoppable. Its gentle, persistent nature can, over time, wear away the hardest stone. This is the wisdom of wise adaptation. It is the understanding that true strength lies not in rigidity, but in fluidity. To be like water is to move with life, not against it. It is to respond to the changing currents with grace, to meet obstacles with flexibility, and to know that in letting go of the struggle, you connect with a power far greater than that of forceful will. We can translate this profound philosophy into a simple, tangible practice. The need to control life manifests directly in the body as physical tension. Therefore, the practice of letting go must also be physical. The practice is one of conscious release. At any point in your day, especially when you feel the familiar grip of stress or anxiety, simply pause and for a moment, become an explorer of your own body. Scan yourself from head to toe. Where are you holding on? Where is the control being stored? Is your jaw clenched tight? Are your shoulders hunched up towards your ears as if bracing for a blow? Is your stomach tied in a knot? Are your hands curled into tight fists? You do not need to analyze why you are tense. The reason does not matter. The simple, non-judgmental recognition of the tension is the first and most important step. My jaw is tight. Once you have located the tension, bring the gentle focus of your breath to that area. Imagine you are breathing a warm, soft, liquid light directly into that knot of resistance. And on your exhalation, consciously invite that area to soften. You are not commanding it to relax. You are giving it permission. Imagine the clenched muscle fibers letting go, releasing their grip, melting. Even if it only softens by 10%, you have performed a miracle. You have physically enacted the spiritual principle of surrender. This micro-practice of releasing physical tension has a profound macro effect on your entire being. Every time you consciously soften your jaw or release your shoulders, you are sending a powerful signal to your entire nervous system. You are communicating on a cellular level that you are safe, that you do not need to fight reality, that it is okay to let go. This physical practice retrains the mind. A soft body encourages a soft mind. A flexible body encourages a flexible mind. By practicing surrender in the small muscles of your face and neck, you are teaching your mind how to surrender its grand, ambitious project of controlling the entire universe. It is a bottom-up approach to finding peace. Instead of trying to convince your mind to relax, you relax your body. and the mind naturally follows. The wisdom of water is encoded in your very physiology. Your natural state is not one of tension, but of fluid ease. The tension is an overlay, a habit you have learned. The practice of conscious release is the act of unlearning that habit and remembering the flowing, graceful nature that lies beneath. It is a return to your true self. By ceasing to be the rock that resists the river, you remember that you have always been the water, capable of navigating any terrain with effortless power and profound grace. After exploring the mind's anxious projections into the past and future, and seeing how they are fueled by the illusion of control, we might feel lost in a labyrinth of complex psychological patterns. It is natural to ask, what is the way out? If we cannot think our way out of the prison of thought, what is the key that unlocks the door? The answer, paradoxically, is not found in adding more complexity, in adopting another sophisticated strategy, or in fighting our mind with more force. The key has been with us all along. It is the simplest, most humble, and most powerful force we possess. It is the gentle rhythm of our own breath. Let us explore why this simple biological process is the central pillar of nearly every great contemplative tradition in human history. The power of the breath lies in its unique and profound characteristics. First, and most importantly, the breath exists only in the now. You cannot breathe in the past. You cannot breathe in the future. To bring your awareness to your breath is to instantly transport yourself to the present moment, the only place where life is actually happening. It is a direct and immediate antidote to the time-traveling mind. When you are lost in regret about yesterday, the breath is here, now. When you are consumed by anxiety about tomorrow, the breath is here, now. It is the ultimate reality check, cutting through all layers of mental fabrication and grounding you in the undeniable truth of this very moment. Furthermore, the breath is the sacred bridge between the seen and the unseen, the conscious and the unconscious. For most of your life, your breathing happens automatically, governed by the ancient wisdom of your autonomic nervous system, without any conscious thought from you. Yet, at any moment, you can consciously step in and change its rhythm. You can hold it, deepen it, or quicken it. This makes the breath a unique gateway, a direct line of communication to the deeper, involuntary parts of your being that regulate your heart rate, your digestion, and your emotional state. An anxious mind immediately creates short, shallow, chaotic breathing. This is not a one-way street. A calm, steady, conscious breath sends a powerful signal back to the brain that all is well, that the threat is gone, that it is safe to relax. By consciously befriending your breath, you are befriending the deepest systems of your own body and mind. It is the most intimate link between your will and your being. Given this profound power, we must confront the internal conflict that arises when we are presented with such a simple solution. The ego, the part of us that loves complexity and control, often dismisses the breath with contempt. That's it? It scoffs. Just breathe? How can paying attention to the air moving in and out of my body possibly solve my intricate financial problems, my difficult relationships, or my deep existential angst? The mind is arrogant. It believes that a complex problem must require an equally complex solution. It loves to analyze, to strategize, to worry, because these activities give it a sense of importance and purpose. The sheer simplicity of breath awareness offers no purchase for the ego's tricks. It cannot be analyzed, it can only be felt. It cannot be controlled, it can only be allowed. And so, a conflict arises between our impatient desire for a miraculous external fix and the quiet, humble, and patient cultivation of this fundamental internal connection. To overcome this resistance, let us reframe our relationship with the breath. It is not merely a tool to be used, it is your most loyal companion. Think of it, from the moment of your birth, From that very first cry that filled your lungs with air, your breath has been with you. It has been there through every triumph and every tragedy, every moment of joy and every moment of despair. It has never once left you. It asks for nothing. It does not judge you for your mistakes or praise you for your successes. It is simply there, a constant, steady, life-giving rhythm in the background of your entire existence. It will remain with you, this faithful companion, until your very last moment on this earth. Seen in this light, returning your attention to your breath is not a chore or a technique. It is an act of coming home. It is a return to the most stable, reliable, and peaceful part of yourself. It is a visit with your oldest and most trusted friend. To truly understand its function, let us use our central metaphor. If your mind is a turbulent sea, constantly tossed about by the winds of thought and the powerful currents of emotion, then your awareness is a small boat on that sea. Without an anchor, this boat is helplessly adrift. It is carried wherever the storm dictates, spun in circles by the currents of regret, and dashed against the rocks of fear. You are at the mercy of the weather. The breath is the anchor for your awareness. The act of placing your attention on the breath is like letting that heavy anchor drop from the side of the boat. It sinks down, down, down through the turbulent surface waters and finds purchase in the deep, silent, immovable stillness of the ocean floor. That ocean floor is the present moment. Now, this is a crucial point. Dropping the anchor does not necessarily stop the storm. The winds of thought may continue to howl for a time. The waves of emotion may continue to crash against the hull of your boat. But the boat is no longer adrift. It is held fast. It may rock and sway on the surface, but it is fundamentally secure, connected to the profound stillness that lies beneath all the turmoil. This is the true goal of breath awareness. It is not to create a blank mind, free of all thoughts. It is to stop being helplessly carried away by those thoughts. It is to find your secure footing in the present moment, so that you can witness the storm of the mind without being capsized by it. The practice itself is one of sublime simplicity. The invitation is not to control your breath in any way. Do not try to make it deeper. Do not try to make it slower. Do not try to breathe correctly. Any attempt to control the breath is just the ego sneaking in through the back door, trying to turn this practice of surrender into another project of achievement. The only instruction is to feel, to become intensely curious about the physical sensations of your natural breath, just as it is. Bring your attention to the tip of your nostrils. Can you feel the subtle sensation of the air entering your body? Is it slightly cooler on the in-breath? Is it slightly warmer on the out-breath? Or perhaps you prefer to rest your attention on your abdomen, feeling the gentle rise on the inhalation and the gentle fall on the exhalation. There is nothing to do, nothing to fix. Simply rest your awareness on these sensations. Be a scientist of your own inner experience, observing with gentle, non-judgmental curiosity. This is what this breath feels like. When you rest here, you begin to notice the deeper magic. You notice the tiny, silent pause that exists after each exhalation, a moment of profound stillness before the body decides to breathe in again. You notice that you are not actually doing the breathing. Your body is breathing itself. Life is breathing you. And in this realization, all the lessons of letting go, of trusting the process, of being like water, move from being abstract ideas to a direct, felt reality. You learn to trust the wisdom of your own body, the wisdom of life itself. The anchor is not just a tool for presence, it is a teacher of surrender. It is your constant, rhythmic reminder that you are held, you are supported, and you can let go of the strain. You can allow yourself to be breathed. This simple, profound reality is your sanctuary. It is your oldest friend. It is your unbreakable anchor in the stormy sea of life. It is your home, and you can return to it at any time with just a single, conscious breath. Having dropped the anchor of the breath, we find ourselves in a new position of power. We are no longer a vessel tossed helplessly on the waves of our own thinking. We are stable, held fast in the calm depths of the present moment. From this newfound stability, we can begin the next phase of our liberation. We can begin to observe the weather. We can learn to look upon the very thoughts and emotions that once tormented us, not as enemies to be fought or as masters to be obeyed, but with the calm, detached curiosity of a meteorologist watching the sky. This is the art of non-judgmental observation, and it is the pathway to profound inner freedom. The primary source of our psychological suffering is a simple, catastrophic case of mistaken identity. We believe that we are our thoughts and feelings. We have spent our entire lives in a state of complete fusion with the activity of our minds. When a thought of sadness arises, we do not perceive it as an impersonal event. We immediately conclude, "I am sad." When a fleeting thought of incompetence passes through the mind, we do not see it as random mental static. We internalize it as a fundamental truth. I am a failure. When anger flashes, we become anger itself. We do not realize that thoughts are not facts. They are transient, electrochemical events in the brain. They are suggestions, echoes of the past, rehearsals for the future, bits of mental flotsam and jetsam. They are no more a reflection of our true identity than the sound of a passing car is a reflection of our identity. Yet we grant them ultimate authority. We suffer not because we have negative thoughts, but because we unconsciously believe every single one of them. This creates a powerful internal conflict. The habit of believing our own mind is the most deeply ingrained habit we have. It feels natural, immediate, and true. To even consider the alternative to see a thought as just a thought, separate from ourselves, can feel strange, even unnerving at first. The mind resists this. It wants you to stay fused with its drama. It wants you to believe its stories, because that is how it maintains its control. The struggle, then, is between the powerful gravitational pull of our lifelong habit of identifying with our mental commentary and the gentle, disciplined, and revolutionary act of stepping back. It is the difference between being an actor who is so lost in their role that they believe they are the tragic character they are playing, and suddenly remembering that you are, in fact, the silent, watching audience. The play may be tragic, but you, the witness, are perfectly safe. To facilitate this momentous shift in identity, we will use a metaphor of immense power and beauty. Imagine that your true nature, the core of your being, your fundamental consciousness, is the sky. It is not an object, but a vast, open, limitless space. Its inherent qualities are stillness, clarity, and an unshakable peace. It has no center and no edge. It simply is. It has always been here, and it will always be here. Now, imagine that all of your mental and emotional activity is the weather. Your thoughts, your feelings, your moods, your sensations. These are the ever-changing patterns of weather that move through the vast, unchanging sky of your awareness. Sometimes, the weather is beautiful. Thoughts of joy and love are like bright, warm sunshine. Feelings of contentment are like soft, white, puffy clouds drifting lazily on a summer afternoon. At other times, the weather is turbulent. A flash of anger is a dark, churning thunderhead. A deep-seated anxiety is a thick, persistent cold fog that obscures all light. A sharp pang of grief is a piercing bolt of lightning. The key insight, the truth that can set you free, is this: the weather is never the sky. The sky contains the weather. It allows the weather to unfold within it, but the sky is never, ever harmed or defined by the weather. The most violent hurricane does not leave a single scratch or scar upon the sky. The darkest, most ominous storm cloud does not stain the sky's essential purity. After every storm passes, as all storms eventually do, the sky remains. It is just as vast, just as silent, and just as peaceful as it was before the storm began. The core message, the ultimate liberation, is this: you are the sky, you are not the weather. The person you have taken yourself to be, that volatile bundle of shifting moods, anxious thoughts, conflicting beliefs, and painful memories, that is just the weather. It is a temporary, passing, and impersonal phenomenon. Your true self, your deepest identity, is the silent, spacious, witnessing awareness in which all of this weather appears and disappears. To realize this, even for a fleeting moment, is to change the entire game. Suffering can only exist when you are identified with the weather, when you believe you are the storm. The moment you remember you are the sky, the storm loses its terrifying power. You are no longer lost in it. You are holding it with infinite space and compassion. We can turn this beautiful metaphor into a direct, experiential practice. Find a comfortable position, allowing your body to be still. Let your eyes gently close. Begin by resting with the anchor of your breath for a few moments, feeling its steady rhythm grounding you in the present. Now, begin to imagine that your own consciousness, the inner space of your mind, is as vast, open, and boundless as the sky. Don't just think it, try to feel it. Feel a sense of spaciousness inside of you and all around you, a quality of limitless, peaceful emptiness. Having established this sense of being the sky, your only task is to watch the weather. Simply remain as this open space and notice what passes through. A thought about your to-do list might appear. See it as a small gray cloud drifting by. A sudden feeling of sadness might arise. See it as a heavy, rain-filled cloud. A pleasant memory may surface. See it as a bright, sunlit cloud. Your instruction is to do nothing. You do not have to push the dark clouds away. You do not have to grasp at the beautiful clouds and try to make them stay. You do not judge the weather or wish it were different. You simply allow it all to be. You watch it all come, and you watch it all go. You can even mentally label what you see. A worry cloud. There is a planning cloud. That is a cloud of impatience. You remain as the sky, the silent, impartial witness to your own inner weather. As you continue this practice, you begin to make profound discoveries. You see with absolute certainty that you have very little control over what weather patterns arise. Thoughts and feelings simply appear on their own. But you also discover that you have absolute freedom in how you relate to them. You discover that even the most terrifying, blackest storm cloud, if you allow it to be and watch it without resistance, eventually changes shape, loses its intensity, and dissolves back into the emptiness of the sky. You develop a deep and abiding trust in your own nature. You realize that your peace is not contingent on having clear skies. Your peace is the sky itself. It is always here, an infinite reservoir of stillness available to you in every moment, regardless of the weather. The goal is not to control the weather. The goal is to remember that you are the sky. That is freedom. That is peace. Having learned to rest as the vast, open sky, allowing the weather of our emotions to pass through without resistance, we can now deepen our practice with another powerful and ancient metaphor. While the sky teaches us about our boundless nature and the impermanence of feelings, the metaphor of the river will teach us about the very process and flow of thinking itself. The mind is not a static object, it is an activity. It is a ceaseless current of thoughts, images, memories, and impulses. To find peace, we must understand the nature of this current and learn to change our relationship to it. Imagine that your stream of consciousness is a great river. Its nature is to flow, just as the nature of your heart is to beat. The mind produces thoughts ceaselessly, from the moment you wake until the moment you fall asleep. This flow is not, in itself, a problem. The river is simply being a river. The water within it is a complex mixture. There are moments of crystal clarity where insights and creative ideas flow freely. There are moments of murkiness, clouded by judgment, confusion, and doubt. The river carries all manner of objects on its surface. It carries light, buoyant leaves of fleeting memories and heavy, waterlogged logs of deep-seated worries. It carries sharp, jagged branches of self-criticism and soft, beautiful flower petals of loving kindness. The fundamental mistake that causes our suffering is that we have been taught to jump into this river for every single object that floats by. We believe that we must engage with, analyze, and follow every thought downstream. In doing so, we become entangled in the debris, pushed and pulled by the unpredictable currents, and exhausted by the constant effort of trying to swim in a chaotic and powerful flow. There is a powerful, almost magnetic lure to this river. The current has a gravitational pull. Each thought that drifts by seems to whisper our name, demanding our engagement. A thought of a future problem arises, and it seems to shout, "Solve me now. If you ignore me, disaster will strike." A memory of a past injustice appears, and it commands, "Be outraged. Relive this moment and feel the anger all over again." A pleasant fantasy drifts by, and it beckons with a siren's call, "Cling to me. Leave the reality of your life and lose yourself in this daydream." The habit of diving in is so deeply ingrained that the alternative to simply stand by and let a thought pass without reacting can feel profoundly unnatural. It can feel irresponsible, lazy, or even impossible. Our internal conflict, moment to moment, is between the powerful automatic compulsion to leap into the stream of thought and the emerging, quiet wisdom that invites us to remain still, to simply watch the river flow. Here is the key to resolving this conflict. Your true position is not in the river. It never was. Your true position, the seat of your awareness, your wisdom, and your power, is on the riverbank. Imagine this bank. It is solid, stable, and still. It is rooted in the earth of the present moment. The river may be flowing at a furious pace, but the bank does not move. The river may be filled with murky, turbulent water, but the bank remains clean and dry. From the vantage point of the riverbank, you can observe the entire flow with perfect clarity and perfect safety. You can see the speed of the currents. You can notice the patterns in the eddies. You can watch the heavy logs of worry as they approach from upstream, see them float directly in front of you, and then watch them as they continue their journey downstream until they vanish from sight. The riverbank does not try to stop the river. It does not try to build a dam to halt the flow. It does not judge the river for being muddy on a particular day. It simply provides the silent, stable, unwavering context in which the river is allowed to be itself. The liberating insight is this: you are not the river. You are the watcher on the bank. The entire, chaotic, unpredictable, beautiful, and sometimes frightening stream of thoughts is not you. It is a process happening outside of you. Your identity is not the stream. Your identity is the silent, unmoving stillness of the bank that witnesses the stream. When you truly embody this perspective, the entire power dynamic of your inner world shifts. You are no longer a victim of your own mind. Thoughts no longer have the power to sweep you away because you are no longer in the water. You are resting on solid ground. This creates a profound sense of peace that is not dependent on the contents of the mind. The river can be stormy, but you can remain at peace on the bank. From this position of stability, you can even begin to appreciate the river, to see its patterns and learn its ways without being defined by it. Let us turn this metaphor into a direct, felt experience. Allow your eyes to close, settle into your body, feeling its weight, its presence. Imagine yourself sitting in a comfortable position on the soft, green, grassy bank of a wide and gently flowing river. Take a moment to establish this scene in your mind's eye. Feel the solid earth beneath you, supporting you completely. Perhaps you can feel the warmth of a gentle sun on your skin or a light breeze carrying the scent of damp earth and water. You are safe, you are still, you are at peace. Now, understand that this river flowing before you is your own mind. It is your stream of thought. Your only task is to remain seated on the bank and watch what floats by. There is nothing else for you to do. As a thought arises, see it as an object on the water's surface. A thought about an errand you must run tomorrow might be a simple green leaf. Notice it as it enters your field of vision. You can even label it softly in your mind. Planning. You watch the leaf as it floats past, and you continue to watch as it recedes into the distance and disappears. You do not get up from the bank. You do not jump into the water to inspect the leaf. You simply let it flow. A moment later, a heavy feeling of sadness might arise. See it as a large, dark, waterlogged log. It moves more slowly, with more weight. Again, you simply notice it. Ah, sadness. You watch this heavy log float by, without resistance and without judgment. You trust that the river's current is strong enough to carry even the heaviest of objects downstream. You remain on the bank, still, solid, and safe. A fragment of a song, a flicker of a memory, a harsh self-judgment, see them all as different objects, each carried along by the natural flow of the river, and simply watch. When you sit on this riverbank consistently, you begin to learn the secrets of your own mind. You see, with direct experience, that thoughts are transient. They arise, they linger for a moment, and they pass away, if you let them. You see that while you cannot control what comes down the river, you have absolute power over the choice to stay on the bank. You begin to recognize your habitual patterns. You notice that the same few logs of worry and the same jagged branches of self-criticism float by again and again. Seeing them from the bank, you are no longer intimidated by them. Their appearance becomes predictable, almost familiar. This recognition is the birth of wisdom. It robs the thoughts of their power. You develop a spaciousness around your thinking. You are no longer enmeshed in it. You are the calm, knowing presence that is watching it. Your mind is not your enemy. It is a natural force, like a river. Your work is not to silence it, but to find your proper place in relation to it. Take your seat on the riverbank. This is your birthright. It is the place of stillness that is always available to you, no matter how turbulent the waters of your life may seem. From here, you can allow the river to flow in all its wildness and beauty. Your peace is not in a clear and placid river, but in your unwavering ability to remember your place on its silent, solid, and sacred bank. Having rested as the sky and watched from the riverbank, you may have begun to notice a fundamental truth that underpins both experiences. The weather always changes. The river always flows. Nothing ever stays the same. This is not a coincidence or a flaw in the system. This is the system itself. This is the first and most profound law of existence, the great teaching of impermanence. In the ancient language of Buddhist wisdom, it is called anicca. It is the simple, radical, and non-negotiable truth that everything that arises must eventually pass away. All things are in a state of constant flux. This universal law is the silent engine driving much of our anxiety. A great deal of our mental and emotional energy is spent in a futile struggle against this law. We live as if we can create pockets of permanence in a universe that is defined by change. We experience a moment of perfect happiness, a moment of connection with a loved one, a moment of professional success, and our immediate, instinctual response is to grasp it, to hold on to it, to try and freeze frame it so that it will last forever. We treat our health, our youth, our relationships, and our achievements not as temporary gifts to be enjoyed, but as possessions to be hoarded and defended against the relentless current of time. This act of clinging, of grasping at that which is by its very nature flowing, is the very essence of suffering. The tension you feel, the background hum of anxiety, is the friction generated between your desire for a permanent, solid ground and the absolute reality that you are living in a flowing world. This creates a deep and poignant conflict within the human heart. There is an innocent, tender, and profound longing within us for security. We desire a safe harbor, something solid and reliable to hold on to in the midst of life's storms. We yearn for a love that never fades, a peace that is never disturbed, a strength that never wanes. This desire is not wrong. It is a beautiful expression of our vulnerability. However, this deep longing of the heart runs directly counter to the impersonal and unwavering law of the cosmos. The universe does not offer us permanence. It offers us a perpetual dance of arising and ceasing, of coming and going, of birth and death. Our internal conflict is the pain of a heart that wants to build a permanent home on ground that is constantly shifting like the sands of a tidal beach. This leads us to our most revealing metaphor yet, the sandcastle. Imagine you are on a vast and beautiful beach. You spend your life building intricate sandcastles at the water's edge. One sandcastle might be your career. You build its walls with years of hard work, decorate its turrets with achievements and accolades, and dig a moat of financial security around it. Another sandcastle might be your idea of a perfect relationship. You construct it carefully with expectations, shared memories, and plans for an immutable future. You might build another sandcastle of your physical identity, your health, your youth, your appearance, protecting it fiercely from the effects of time. We pour our hearts and souls into these creations. We become deeply attached to their form, believing that our happiness and safety depend on their survival. But there is always the tide. The tide is the force of anicca, the relentless rhythm of impermanence. It is the breath of the universe, the great ebb and flow of life itself. On some deep level, we know the tide is always coming in. We can see it on the horizon. And the anxiety we feel is the desperate, exhausting effort of trying to hold back the ocean. We run back and forth with our tiny buckets, trying to bail out the sea. We build bigger and bigger walls of denial. We stand before our beautiful, fragile castle, and we scream at the waves, demanding that they stop. Our anguish is not caused by the tide. The tide is a natural, neutral, and inevitable event. Our anguish is caused entirely by our attachment to the sandcastle and our resistance to the nature of reality. Now, we must perform a great alchemy of the spirit. We must learn to see this law not as a curse, but as a blessing. The law of impermanence is the ultimate source of liberation. It is the universe's most compassionate promise, because if everything changes, if nothing lasts, that includes your pain. It includes your suffering. The heavy grief you are feeling right now is a sandcastle. The tight knot of anxiety in your stomach is a sandcastle. The dark story of failure or victimhood that you have built around yourself is an elaborate sandcastle. And the tide is coming for all of them. This is a universal guarantee. The difficult emotion you are experiencing is not a permanent feature of your identity. It is not a life sentence. It is a temporary weather pattern. It is a log floating down the river. By its very nature, it must pass away. Anicca is not a threat to your happiness. It is the promise that your suffering is not final. It is the constant, whispered reassurance from the universe that change is possible, that healing is inevitable, and that freedom is your birthright. To integrate this profound wisdom into your daily life, you can practice the simple art of noting impermanence. This is not a morbid or depressing exercise. It is a gentle training of the mind to become comfortable with the natural rhythm of life. Begin to notice the countless small endings that occur every day. When you finish a cup of tea, just for a second, notice the moment of its ending. When a beautiful song on the radio concludes, Acknowledge the brief moment of silence that follows. When you finish a conversation with a friend, notice the moment of parting. When the sun finally dips below the horizon, witness that moment of transition from light to dark. Your task is not to feel sad or dramatic about these endings. It is simply to acknowledge them with a gentle, silent inner nod. You can note to yourself, "This is ending," or "This too passes." By befriending these tiny, harmless endings, you are conditioning your nervous system to be less terrified of the larger endings that life inevitably brings. You are attuning yourself to reality, learning to flow with the current instead of fighting it. Let us return to the beach one last time. The wise person does not respond to the law of impermanence by refusing to build sandcastles. That would be to refuse to participate in life. The joy of being human is in the building, the creating, the loving. The difference is that the wise builder creates with full and joyful awareness of the tide. They pour their heart into making the most beautiful castle they can. They delight in the process, they cherish the creative act, but they do it with a light heart. They do not build with the grim determination of someone trying to erect a permanent fortress. They build with the playful spirit of an artist who knows that the beauty is in the ephemeral dance of creation. And when the tide inevitably begins to lap at the walls of their castle, they do not scream or despair. They step back. They might even sit down on the sand and watch with a sense of awe as the water reclaims their creation, washing it smooth, preparing the beach for something new. They are at peace because they were never attached to the form, only to the loving act of its creation. They are free. This is the freedom that awaits you when you embrace the wisdom of impermanence. You stop fighting a war you can never win. You let go of the impossible burden of trying to make things permanent. You find your security not in things staying the same, but in your own resilient ability to adapt, to let go, and to begin again. Find comfort in this law. Know that whatever difficulty you are facing is temporary. Your pain will pass. Your anxiety will pass. They are clouds. They are river currents. They are sandcastles. Allow the gentle tide of life to do its work. Practice living like the wise builder, fully engaged in this moment, loving with an open heart, and at peace with the beautiful, flowing, and ever-changing dance of reality. We have journeyed far into our inner landscape. We have learned to see ourselves as the vast sky, not the fleeting weather. We have learned to rest on the stable bank, watching the river of thoughts flow by. We have come to understand the universal law of impermanence, the wisdom that everything that arises must also pass away. Now, we are prepared to take the next, most subtle step. We are going to look not at the clouds, but at the space between the clouds. We are going to listen not to the river, but to the silence that holds the sound of the river. We are going to discover the profound peace that lies in the gaps, in the stillness from which all sound and motion arise. Our ordinary perception of our own mind is that it is a solid, continuous, and impenetrable wall of noise. From the moment we wake, the inner chatter begins, and it seems to run without interruption until we fall into sleep. This, however, is an illusion. It is an illusion created by the sheer speed of our thoughts and by our complete unconscious identification with them. If we could slow down the process, we would see that the stream of thinking is not a continuous, solid block. It is a rapid succession of discrete thoughts, feelings, and images. And between each of these mental events, there is a space, a gap, a moment of pure silence. This space is not a void. It is not empty. It is the fertile emptiness of pure awareness, the silent source from which the next thought is born. This silent space is the origin of all peace, all creativity, and all true intelligence. It is the forgotten ground of our own being. The conscious mind, and particularly the ego, has a deep and profound fear of this space. The ego is a construction made entirely of thought, memory, and identification. It exists only as a story, a continuous stream of mental commentary. From the ego's perspective, the absence of thought is a threat to its very survival. It is a taste of death. This is the ancient horror vacui, the terror of the void. As a result, the moment a gap of silence naturally appears in the mind, the ego frantically rushes in to fill it. It will generate another thought, another worry, another plan, another distraction, anything to avoid the perceived emptiness. This creates the central conflict of the contemplative life, the soul's deep and abiding longing for the restorative peace of inner silence, clashing with the ego's terrified and compulsive need to maintain an unbroken stream of noise to prove to itself that it still exists. We are caught between our fear of disappearing and our deep desire to come home to the stillness we intuitively know we are. To understand this more clearly, let us use our final metaphor. Imagine that your consciousness is a blank page. It is white, silent, and infinitely spacious. Your thoughts, then, are the words that are written upon this page. For our entire lives, we have been completely hypnotized by the words. We are absorbed in the story they tell. We get lost in the plot. We identify with the main character, this, me with all its dramas and desires, and we react emotionally to every twist and turn. We are so focused on the ink that we have completely forgotten the existence of the page itself. But without the page, there could be no words. The page is the silent, ever-present background that allows the story to unfold. The story might be a tragedy, a comedy, or a terrifying thriller, but the page itself is never affected. It is never stained by the ink, never harmed by the plot. The page is always and forever pristine, untouched, and at peace. This page is your true nature. It is pure awareness. This leads us to the most liberating realization of all. Peace is not something you must create, build, or achieve. It is not a distant destination you must struggle to reach. Peace is your natural state. It is the page. It is the sky. It is the silence that is already and always here, just beneath the surface of the noise. Your work is not to manufacture a state of peace. Your work is to simply stop obscuring the peace that is already present. It is an act of subtraction, not addition. It is about letting go of the compulsive thinking that veils your true nature. You do not need to go anywhere or get anything. You simply need to become still and allow the noise to subside. The peace you so desperately seek is what is revealed when the thinking mind grows quiet. It has been here, patiently waiting for you, all along. How, then, do we access this silent ground? The practice is not one of doing, but of listening. It is a listening of the most subtle and profound kind. Let us begin with the world outside of you. Take a moment right now to listen to the sounds in your room. But instead of focusing on the sounds themselves, the hum of an appliance, the distant traffic, the sound of your own breathing shift, your attention, listen, instead, to the silence out of which those sounds are born. Notice the background of stillness that is holding all the sounds. The sounds are temporary interruptions, but the silence is constant, always present. By listening for the silence instead of the sound, you begin to attune your awareness to the background, to the page instead of the words. Now, we can turn this practice inward. With your eyes closed, begin to listen to your own stream of thought in the same way. Do not try to stop your thoughts. Do not judge them or push them away. Simply allow them to arise and listen to them as if they were internal sounds. And now, with a gentle, patient, and alert curiosity, begin to listen for the gap. Listen for the tiny pause of silence that occurs after one thought has ended and before the next thought has begun. It may only be a fraction of a second long. It is a tiny clearing in the dense forest of your mind. Do not strain to find it. Just remain relaxed and receptive, listening for that moment of stillness between thoughts. When you notice this gap, you have discovered the source. In that brief moment of pure silence, There is no you with a past and a future. There is no story, no problem, no anxiety. There is only being. A simple, open, luminous awareness. This is a direct taste of your true nature. It is a moment of awakening. Each time you notice this gap, you are stepping out of the river of time and resting in the timeless now. You are touching the immaculate page, not just reading the words, and a miracle begins to happen. As you give more of your attention to the silence rather than the noise, the silence begins to expand. The gaps between your thoughts grow wider and last longer. This happens not through force, but as a natural consequence of shifting your interest. You are withdrawing your energy from the noisy thoughts and investing it in the quiet stillness. The inner silence grows because you are finally paying attention to it. The ultimate refuge you seek is not in thinking positive thoughts, but in the silence that lies beyond all thinking, both positive and negative. It is in the conscious realization of the space in which all experience happens. You have spent a lifetime examining the objects in your mind, the clouds, the debris in the river, the words on the page. The invitation now is to become interested in the context, not just the content. Become fascinated with the sky, with the riverbank, with the blank page. Become a lover of the silence. This silent, peaceful, aware space is your essential nature. It is not somewhere else. It is closer to you than your own breath. It is here, now, waiting patiently behind the veil of thought, always available as an infinite source of rest, wisdom, and profound, unshakable peace. Having discovered the silent, spacious awareness that lies between our thoughts, we arrive at a pivotal turning point in our journey. We have learned to witness our inner world without being swept away. The natural question that arises is, what is the wisest way to relate to what we witness? What do we do with the difficult thoughts, painful emotions, and unpleasant situations that we now see with such clarity? The answer lies in one of the most powerful and transformative practices available to us, the practice of radical acceptance. This is the culmination of our awareness, the conscious and courageous choice to meet reality on its own terms, without argument and without resistance. Let us be very clear about what radical acceptance is and what it is not. It is not passivity, it is not resignation or apathy. It is not an approval of harmful behavior in ourselves or others, nor is it a statement that injustice should be tolerated. Radical acceptance is simply the complete and unconditional opening to the facts of reality. It is the act of seeing what is happening in the present moment, both in our inner world and the world outside, and dropping the inner war with it. The foundational insight here is that our suffering is rarely caused by the raw facts of a situation. It is caused by our violent resistance to those facts. The pain comes from the story we tell about the situation, a story whose central theme is always, "This shouldn't be happening." It is this inner argument, this perpetual no to reality, that is the primary fuel of anxiety, anger, and despair. This creates the fundamental conflict of a life lived in resistance. The ego fiercely rebels against what is. It believes that if it accepts a difficult reality, it is surrendering, admitting defeat, and becoming powerless. The ego's entire strategy is based on arguing with life. I shouldn't feel this anxious. He shouldn't have said that. This traffic shouldn't be so bad. I shouldn't be sick. This constant internal friction is exhausting. It is a full-time job arguing with a reality that will never, ever lose the argument. The internal conflict, then, is between the ego's proud, stubborn, and ultimately futile no, and the soul's quiet, courageous, and profoundly wise yes. It is the war between our personal preferences and the impersonal truth of the present moment. Radical acceptance is the declaration of a ceasefire in that unwinnable war. To illuminate this state of being, let us imagine that our mind is a lake. When we are in a state of resistance, when we are internally screaming, "No," to what is. It is as if a strong wind is blowing across the surface of that lake. The wind of our struggle, our judgment, and our non-acceptance whips the water into a choppy, agitated frenzy. When the surface of the lake is agitated, it cannot provide a clear reflection of the world around it. The sky, the trees, the mountains, their images are all broken, distorted, and unclear. This is the state of a mind in resistance. It cannot see reality clearly. Its perception is warped by its own inner turmoil. It makes reactive, poor decisions based on a distorted view of the world. Radical acceptance is the act of allowing this wind of resistance to die down. It is a conscious choice to stop blowing the winds of judgment and argument across the surface of your own mind. And when the wind ceases, a natural miracle occurs. The surface of the lake, of its own accord, becomes perfectly still and smooth as glass. A perfectly still lake reflects the world around it with absolute breathtaking and impartial clarity. It reflects the dark storm clouds and the brilliant blue sky with equal fidelity. It reflects the beautiful, strong trees and the decaying, fallen branches without preference. It simply mirrors what is perfectly. A mind that is in a state of acceptance possesses this same clarity. It sees the reality of a situation without the distortions of its own resistance, and from this place of clear seeing, it can act with wisdom, grace, and true power. Herein lies the great paradox and the profound light of this teaching. The moment you radically accept a situation or a feeling without any inner argument or reservation, you become free from it. As long as you are fighting something, you are chained to it. Your resistance forges the links of your own prison. You are giving it your energy, your focus, your life force. When you drop the fight, when you stop pulling against the chain goes slack and you can simply walk away. All the immense energy that you were pouring into the futile war with what is instantly reclaimed. This reclaimed energy is a powerful resource. It becomes available for wise and effective action if action is what is called for. You are no longer acting from a place of reactive, angry turmoil. You are now able to act, if you choose, from a place of calm, clear-seeing power. You must first accept that it is raining before you can wisely decide to get an umbrella. The practice of radical acceptance can be distilled into a single, potent, internal gesture. The gesture of saying yes. This is a practice you can engage in at any moment of the day. When you feel the familiar knot of anxiety tightening in your stomach, instead of the usual reaction of, "Oh no, not this again, I have to get rid of this feeling," simply pause. Bring your awareness gently to the physical sensation of the knot and whisper to it internally, "Yes, I allow you to be here. This feeling is here now." When you are stuck in traffic, late for an appointment, and you feel anger rising, instead of fuming and fighting a situation you cannot change, simply look around and say, "Yes, this is the reality of this moment. I am in my car, and it is not moving." When you feel overcome with tiredness and a lack of motivation, instead of berating yourself and trying to force yourself into action, just let the feeling be. Yes, this is what exhaustion feels like. For this moment, I accept it fully. This inner yes is not a weak surrender of your will. It is the courageous surrender of your struggle. It is the most profound act of self-compassion, of allowing your inner experience to be what it is without adding a second layer of suffering by judging it and resisting it. Each time you practice this, you are letting the wind die down on your inner lake. You are choosing peace over conflict, reality over your preference. It is an active and powerful embrace of the life that is actually happening, not the life you wish were happening. It takes immense strength and courage to say yes to pain, to uncertainty, to discomfort. It is the ultimate expression of trust in your self-trust, that you are spacious enough and strong enough to handle the reality of this moment, whatever it may contain. Let the wisdom of the still lake be your guide. Your goal is not to manipulate the world so that it never shows you a stormy sky. Your goal is to still the winds of your own resistance so that your mind can reflect that stormy sky with perfect, peaceful clarity. Acceptance is the master key that unlocks the prison of your own making. It is the final, mature expression of awareness. Practice this gentle, powerful, inner yes. Allow the surface of your own inner lake to grow still. And from that stillness, watch as a new kind of power emerges. Power that is born not from fighting life, but from finally, bravely, and peacefully agreeing to dance with it, exactly as it is. Having learned to meet the present moment with the radical yes of acceptance, we open the door to an even deeper form of healing. Acceptance is the clearing of the ground, the cessation of the inner war. But once the war is over, what comes next? Peace is not merely the absence of conflict. In its most profound form, it is the presence of love. We must now evolve from simply allowing our difficult feelings to be here, to actively meeting them with the warmth of compassion. This is the sacred practice of karuna, or compassion, the inseparable partner to wisdom. It is the understanding that it is not enough to see our pain clearly. We must also learn to hold it tenderly. Let us begin by completely reframing our relationship with anxiety. For most of our lives, we have treated it as an enemy. We see it as a malfunction in our system, a pathology to be cured, a demon to be exorcised. We have tried to medicate it, to reason it away, to ignore it, to shame it into submission. But what if anxiety is not an enemy at all? What if it is a messenger? What if the anxious part of you is not trying to hurt you, but is, in its own clumsy and painful way, trying desperately to protect you? Often, the voice of anxiety is the voice of a younger, wounded part of ourselves. It is an inner child who, at some point long ago, learned that the world could be an unsafe or unpredictable place. This inner child adopted a strategy of hyper-vigilance, believing that by constantly worrying and anticipating the worst, it could keep you safe from future harm. This strategy is now outdated and causing you pain, but its original intention was one of love, a primitive attempt to protect the whole of you. It is not a monster to be slain. It is a loyal but misguided soldier still fighting a war that has long been over. This understanding reveals the deep internal conflict that perpetuates our suffering. Our standard, conditioned response to the feeling of anxiety is the voice of a harsh inner critic. When the familiar knot of worry appears, this voice chimes in with judgment and contempt. Why are you feeling this way again? You should be over this by now. You are so weak. Just stop it. We believe on some level that this internal drill sergeant is what we need to whip ourselves into shape. We believe that being hard on ourselves is the path to strength. But what is the actual result of this self-criticism? Does it ever make the anxiety go away? Or does it simply add a second, painful layer of shame and self-loathing on top of the initial fear? We are caught in a tragic loop. We feel anxious, we attack ourselves for feeling anxious, and this attack only generates more anxiety. This is the conflict between the inner critic, who meets pain with a sword, and the emerging inner friend, who knows that the only thing that can heal pain is kindness. Let us use a metaphor that speaks directly to the heart. Imagine your anxiety as a small child crying alone in a room. The child is frightened, overwhelmed, and disoriented. Now, imagine your typical response to your own anxiety. It is like storming into that room, standing over the child and yelling, "Stop crying right now. There's nothing to be scared of. You're being irrational and your crying is deeply inconvenient for me." What happens to the child? Its terror intensifies. Its crying becomes more frantic. It feels abandoned, shamed, and more alone than ever. This is precisely what we do to ourselves every day. We meet our own vulnerability with aggression, and wonder why we never feel safe. Now, imagine a different response, a response born of wisdom and compassion. You hear the child crying. You pause at the door and soften your own body, your own heart. You enter the room slowly and quietly. You kneel down so that you are at the child's level, and in a gentle, warm voice you say, "I can see you're very scared. It's okay, I'm here now. I'm not going to leave you." You don't try to fix the child's fear or argue it away. You don't demand that it stop crying. You simply offer your calm, loving, non-anxious presence. You might place a comforting hand on its back. You might just sit there, silently, being with the child until its sobs subside, until it feels safe enough to lean against you. This is how we must learn to treat ourselves. This is the practice of compassion. The core message here is one of revolutionary power. Kindness is not a weakness. It is the most potent and transformative strength we possess. For years, you have tried to fight your anxiety, to conquer it, to banish it. You have turned your inner world into a battlefield. The invitation now is to declare a unilateral peace. It is to lay down your weapons of self-criticism, self-judgment, and self-aggression forever. The anxious part of you is not calling for your analysis. It is not asking for your condemnation. It is calling for your love. It is a lost part of you that simply wants to be held, to be seen, and to be brought home to the safety of your own heart. Your own unconditional, gentle presence is the only medicine that can truly heal this wound. This can be brought into a simple, beautiful, and embodied practice at any moment you feel the pang of anxiety. The practice is to place your hand on your heart, find a comfortable position, and gently place one or both of your hands over the center of your chest. This is more than a symbolic gesture. The gentle pressure and warmth of your own hand sends a direct signal of safety and comfort to your nervous system. Now, take a few slow, deep breaths, not just into your lungs, but imagine you are breathing into the space beneath your hand. Feel the gentle rise and fall of your chest. Feel the warmth spreading from your hand into your body. With your hand on your heart, you can now offer gentle, kind words to the anxious feeling, speaking to it as you would to that frightened child. You can say these words silently, in your own mind. You might say, "It's okay, I'm right here with you." You might say, "I know you are scared, and I am not going to abandon you." Or, "I feel you. I allow you to be here. You are safe in this moment." You can even try, "Thank you for trying so hard to protect me for all these years. I am strong enough to handle things now. You can rest." The specific words are less important than the tone. The tone must be one of genuine, unconditional warmth and tenderness. You are not trying to trick the anxiety into leaving. You are offering it genuine sanctuary within your own heart. When you engage in this practice, you are doing something profound. You are reparenting yourself. Many of us move through the world with a young, frightened part of us still calling the shots, because we never received the consistent, unconditional comfort we needed to feel truly safe in the world. This practice is how we, as the wise and capable adults we are now, can provide that comfort for ourselves. It is not about blaming anyone from our past. It is about taking radical, loving responsibility for our own emotional well-being in the present. We become the wise, stable, and loving parent that the child within has always been waiting for. This is the beautiful integration of wisdom and love. Wisdom allows us to see the crying child clearly, without judgment. Compassion is the act of walking into the room and holding that child. This is the heart of true healing. It is the end of the inner war. So, I invite you now to lay down your sword. Abandon the long and fruitless battle against yourself. When the feeling of anxiety arises, let your first response not be resistance, but a softening. Let it be the gentle movement of your hand to your own heart. Let it be the whisper of kindness. The peace that follows is not the empty, silent peace of a battlefield after a brutal war. It is the deep, warm, and vibrant peace of a homecoming, the peace of a lost child finally held, finally safe, in the unconditional embrace of their own loving heart. Having learned to meet our anxious self with the radical warmth of compassion, we are now ready to ask an even deeper and more revolutionary question. We have been working to comfort this self, to accept it, to hold it. But who precisely is this self? Who is the I that feels so anxious? Who is this character at the center of our story of suffering? This inquiry takes us to the very heart of our identity, to the root structure of the ego itself. It is a gentle but profound investigation that has the power to unravel the very foundation of our anxiety. For our entire lives, we have operated under an unquestioned assumption. We have assumed that the I at the center of our experience is a solid, continuous, and permanent entity. But the great wisdom traditions invite us to examine this assumption. When you look closely for this I, what do you actually find? You find a collection, a bundle of changing components. You find a body which is in a constant state of flux, different from one moment to the next. You find a stream of thoughts, which, as we have seen, is as ephemeral as the weather. You find a cascade of feelings and emotions, constantly arising and passing away. You find a collection of memories, which are themselves unreliable and edited stories. You find a name, a job title, a set of roles: parent, child, friend, employee, all of which are temporary and conditional. This self, this I, is not a solid thing. It is a construction, a beautiful, intricate, and temporary assemblage of these changing parts. It is a process, not a fixed entity. This is the wisdom of anatta, or not self. It is not a denial of your existence, but a deeper look into the true nature of that existence. This idea can, at first, feel deeply unsettling, even terrifying. The ego, the constructed self, hears the concept of no self and interprets it as a threat of annihilation. It thinks, if I am not my story, if I am not my thoughts, if I am not my body, then I am nothing. This triggers a primal fear. We are caught in a powerful internal conflict. On one hand, we have the absolute, lifelong conviction that I am this story, I am this personality. On the other hand, we are presented with a liberating but destabilizing idea that our true nature is something far more vast, mysterious, and undefined than we have ever imagined. It is the fear of losing the identity we have always known, pitted against the profound promise of discovering the boundless freedom of what we truly are. To make this concept less frightening and more accessible, let us use the metaphor of a shadow. The ego, the constructed I, is like your shadow. A shadow appears to be very real. It has a definite shape, a clear outline. It follows you everywhere you go. It moves when you move. You can point to it and say, there it is. But what is a shadow, really? Does it have any substance of its own? Can you pick it up? Can you weigh it? Can you hold it in your hands? Number. A shadow is not a thing in itself. It is simply a place where the light is being blocked. It is an absence, not a presence. The ego is exactly like this. It seems incredibly real and solid. It has a distinct personality, a history, a set of fears and desires, but it has no independent substance. It is a temporary pattern of thought and conditioning that momentarily blocks the pure, luminous light of your true nature, which is consciousness itself. The ego is the story of me, and for a lifetime we have mistaken this shadow for our true self, forgetting that we are in fact the light that allows the shadow to be cast. When you begin to see this, a monumental shift occurs. When you realize that the small, anxious I you have taken yourself to be is just a character in a story, you realize something even more profound. You are the storyteller. You are not the character, trapped in the drama of the plot, helplessly subject to its twists and turns. You are the silent, spacious consciousness that is dreaming up the character. And if you are the storyteller, if you are the dreamer, you are no longer a victim of your own biography. You have the power to change the story. You can begin to tell a new story, a lighter story, one filled with more compassion, more courage, and more freedom. This doesn't mean denying the past. It means you stop defining yourself by it. You are the author, not just the words on the page. This is the beginning of immense creative freedom. To bring this liberating perspective into your direct experience, we can use a simple yet powerful practice of self-inquiry. The next time you feel a strong wave of anxiety or any difficult emotion, your habitual tendency is to immediately identify with it. I am anxious. In that moment, instead of fusing with the feeling, I invite you to gently turn your attention around with a simple question. Ask yourself, silently, who is aware of this anxiety? Now, it is crucial to understand the purpose of this question. The goal is not to find a verbal or intellectual answer. If your mind responds with, well, my soul is aware, or consciousness is aware, that is just another thought, another object in the mind. The question is not a riddle to be solved. It is a tool to be used. It is a tool designed to do one thing: to stop the forward momentum of identification and to point your attention back towards its source. The question shifts your focus from the object of your awareness, the feeling of anxiety, to the subject of your awareness, the silent, knowing presence that is witnessing the feeling. So, you ask the question, who is aware of this? And then you simply rest. You look inward, not for an answer, but for the feeler of the answer. You rest in that sense of being the witness, the silent, spacious background of knowing that is aware of the anxiety. You let go of the anxiety itself and become interested in the awareness that perceives it. When you practice this, you begin to experience a profound shift. You start to see that experiences are just happening. Anxiety is arising, sadness is arising, joy is arising. They appear in your field of awareness like clouds in the sky. By default, the egoth shadow, I, immediately rushes in and claims ownership of them. It appropriates the experience and says, my anxiety, my sadness, my joy. This act of personalizing the experience is what makes it so heavy and so painful. The question, who is aware, interrupts and prevents this act of appropriation. You begin to see, directly, that anxiety is just anxiety. It is an impersonal pattern of energy, a vibration of thought and sensation. It is not intrinsically yours. It is simply what is happening in this moment. This depersonalization drains the feeling of its painful personal sting. It loses its power over you because it is no longer the defining feature of me. This is not about destroying the ego. The ego, the shadow self, is a necessary tool for navigating the world. You need your name, your memories, and your personality to interact with others, to work, to create. The problem is not the ego's existence, but the fact that we have mistaken this useful tool for our true identity. The ego makes a wonderful servant, but a terrible master. By recognizing that your true nature is the vast, silent, and peaceful awareness behind the ego, you put the ego back in its proper place. You are no longer confined by the small, anxious, and limited story of me. You are free to rest in your true identity, the boundless, formless, and eternally peaceful consciousness that holds all stories, all shadows, and all of life within its loving embrace. Having seen that the solid I we take ourselves to be is more like a shifting story or a transient shadow, we can now understand our lives in a new way. If there is no fixed, unchanging self at the center of our experience, then how does our life unfold? It unfolds as a seamless process of cause and effect, an endless chain of action and result. This process is known as karma. In the West, this word has often been misunderstood. We tend to think of it as a cosmic system of reward and punishment, a kind of moral balance sheet kept by the universe to ensure that people get what they deserve. But its true meaning is far simpler, more practical, and infinitely more empowering. It is a teaching not about fate, but about freedom. Let us strip away the layers of mysticism and look at karma as a simple, natural law, as impersonal and reliable as the law of gravity. The word karma literally means action. That is all. It is not a judgment from on high, it is a description of a process. Every action you take produces a result. This is a truth we observe in the physical world every day. If you plant an apple seed, you will not get an orange tree. The action of planting the seed directly determines the fruit you will eventually harvest. Karma is simply this same law applied to the whole of our experience, especially our inner world. The teaching states that our actions occur on 3 levels: the action of the body, the action of speech, and the action of the mind. Every physical deed is a karmic act. Every word we speak is a karmic act. And most importantly for our inquiry, every single thought we think is a karmic act. Each of these actions, every fleeting thought, every casual word, every deliberate deed is like planting a tiny seed in the fertile soil of our consciousness and the world. An intentionally cruel thought plants a seed of cruelty. A word of encouragement plants a seed of kindness. An act of generosity plants a seed of abundance. A moment of mindful presence plants a seed of peace. These seeds, once planted, will inevitably sprout, grow, and bear fruit in our future experience. This understanding presents us with a profound internal conflict, a choice between 2 fundamentally different ways of seeing our lives. The first is the mindset of the victim. In this view, life happens to us. We are at the mercy of external forces, bad luck, genetics, other people's decisions, a cruel fate. When something goes wrong, we look outside of ourselves for someone or something to blame. This mindset can feel comforting for a moment, as it absolves us of responsibility, but its ultimate fruit is a feeling of bitter powerlessness, resentment, and despair. We feel like a rudderless ship, tossed about by the whims of an uncaring ocean. The second view is the mindset of the Creator, which is born from an understanding of karma. In this view, we take radical responsibility. We understand that our present circumstances, our inner state, our habits, our relationships are largely the harvest grown from the seeds we have planted in the past, whether we planted them consciously or unconsciously. More importantly, we realize that the life we will experience tomorrow and next year is being created by the seeds we are choosing to plant right now. This moves us from the passive, powerless position of a victim to the active, empowered position of a co-creator of our own reality. The conflict is between the ego's desire to blame the world for its problems and the soul's deep yearning to reclaim its creative power. To make this tangible, let us imagine that your mind is a garden. For most of your life, you have likely been an unconscious gardener. You have left the gates of your garden wide open, allowing the winds of your culture, your upbringing, your social media feed, and your own unexamined habits to blow whatever seeds they carried into its soil. As a result, when you now look at your garden, you see that it is overgrown. There are thick patches of the weeds of worry. There are the thorny bushes of old resentments. There are the strangling vines of compulsive and anxious thought patterns. Looking at this chaotic and tangled mess, it is easy to feel hopeless, to believe that this garden is beyond repair. But the law of karma is the great message of hope. It tells you that you can, at any moment, decide to become a conscious gardener. This does not mean you must violently bulldoze the entire garden in a single day. That would be overwhelming and impossible. The work is far more gentle and patient. It begins with the simple decision to start tending to the garden right now. This leads us to the luminous core of this teaching. You cannot travel back in time to unplant the weed seeds of worry and fear that you scattered yesterday, last week, or a decade ago. The harvest of those past actions is the present reality of your garden. To fret over the existing weeds, to curse them for being there, is a waste of your precious energy. Your power is not in the past. Your power is entirely and absolutely in this present moment. Right now, you are standing in your garden and you are holding a new seed in your hand. In this moment, you have complete and total freedom to choose what kind of seed you are going to plant. Will you choose to plant another seed of self-criticism, or will you plant a seed of self-compassion? Will you choose to indulge in an angry thought, or will you plant a seed of forgiveness? Will you choose to distract yourself, or will you plant a seed of mindful presence? The harvest of your future depends entirely on the conscious choice you make about which seed to plant in this moment and the next and the next. This is the ultimate reclamation of your power and your freedom. The practice for becoming a conscious gardener is the practice of the micro-pause. It is the art of inserting a sliver of awareness, a single conscious breath, between an impulse and your action. In that sacred pause, before you indulge a habitual thought, before you speak a reflexive word, before you engage in a compulsive deed, you ask yourself a simple question: is this action I am about to take planting a flower or a weed? Is this a seed of peace or a seed of conflict? This tiny moment of inquiry changes everything. You are no longer a robot acting on unconscious programming. You are an awakened gardener, making an intentional choice about the future beauty and health of your own inner and outer world. This is not a practice of perfection. You have been unconsciously planting weeds for a very long time. The habit is strong. You will still at times act unconsciously. The key is to meet these moments, not with more self-criticism, which is just another weed seed, but with gentle forgiveness, and to simply return to the practice of conscious planting. It is the cumulative effect of these small, intentional choices that transforms the garden. One flower does not make a beautiful garden, just as one weed does not ruin it. But the consistent, patient act of pulling one weed here and planting one flower there, day after day, is what will, over time, inevitably transform the entire landscape of your life. The flowers of peace, clarity, and compassion will begin to bloom, and as they grow stronger, they will naturally leave less and less room for the weeds to thrive. Embrace your role as the sacred gardener of your life. Life is not a pre-written script that you are condemned to act out. It is a living, breathing garden that responds directly to the quality of your attention and intention. Forgive yourself for the tangled weeds of the past. They were planted in ignorance. Focus all of your gentle, creative power on the only task that matters, choosing with great love and care the beautiful seed you will plant in the holy ground of this present moment. Having learned to see ourselves as the conscious gardeners of our own lives, planting seeds of intention with our thoughts, words, and actions, we must now ask, what is the nature of the soil in which these seeds best grow? A seed of peace planted in the frantic, noisy soil of a distracted mind will struggle to take root. The most fertile ground for a life of clarity, purpose, and peace is the ground of inner silence. We will now explore this silence not as a mere absence of noise, but as a vibrant, intelligent, and powerful frequency, the very frequency of the universe itself. In the language of energy and vibration, much of modern life is a source of low-frequency static. It is the constant hum of traffic, the incessant ping of notifications on our phones, the non-stop chatter of the 24-hour news cycle, which is often tuned to the frequency of fear and conflict. It is the inner noise of our own anxious, repetitive thinking. This constant bombardment of low-grade, chaotic energy creates a kind of psychic friction. It agitates our nervous system, clouds our judgment, and drains our life force. It is like living in a house with faulty wiring, where there is a constant, irritating buzz of dirty electricity that leaves us feeling perpetually on edge and exhausted. In contrast, there are high-frequency states of being. These are the resonant frequencies of gratitude, of compassion, of awe when witnessing a sunset, and most fundamentally, of deep, profound silence. This silence is not empty. It is not a dead space. It is a field of pure potential, pregnant with life. It is the frequency of the cosmos before the Big Bang, the stillness of a deep forest, the vast, intelligent quiet of the night sky. This high-frequency field is deeply restorative, clarifying, and nourishing. It is the soil in which the seeds of our highest intentions can finally sprout and flourish. This presents us with one of the great internal conflicts of our time. We are addicted to the very static that is draining us. We have become deeply uncomfortable with silence. At the first sign of a quiet moment waiting in a line, sitting at a red light, the pause after a conversation, our hand reflexively reaches for our phone. We feel an urgent need to fill the space with a podcast, with music, with an article, with anything to avoid the perceived emptiness of the moment. This is a subconscious fear. We are afraid of what we might encounter in the silence. We are afraid of the unresolved feelings, the difficult questions, the profound loneliness, or the sheer vastness of our own being that the silence might reveal. And so, we remain in a state of conflict, our soul deeply craving the nourishment of high-frequency stillness, while our conditioned mind compulsively seeks the familiar, low-frequency comfort of distraction. Let us use the metaphor of a radio receiver. Your entire being, your mind, your body, your spirit is an infinitely sophisticated radio, capable of tuning into a vast spectrum of frequencies. For most of our lives, many of us have had the dial of our receiver locked onto a single, low-frequency station. Let's call this station Ego Radio. This station broadcasts 24 hours a day. Its programming consists of worry, comparison, regret, fear, and the endless looping stories of our limited personal self. The sound it produces is the constant, draining static of anxiety that we have come to mistake for the sound of life itself. But, at the very same time, on a much higher band of the spectrum, another station is always broadcasting. It has been broadcasting since the beginning of time. Let's call this station Universe Radio. This station plays the clear, beautiful, harmonious music of reality itself. Its broadcast is one of unconditional love, infinite intelligence, and profound peace. The problem is not that this beautiful music isn't playing. The problem is that our receiver is perpetually tuned to the static of ego radio. We cannot hear the symphony of the cosmos because we are deafened by the noise of our own inner chatter. The core message, the great liberating news, is that you have the power to change the channel. The universe does not just respond to the seeds of your actions, it responds to your fundamental state of being, your vibrational resonance. The practice of cultivating inner silence is the act of consciously and deliberately turning the dial of your receiver. With each moment, you choose silence over noise. You are turning the dial away from the static of fear and attuning yourself to the clear frequency of peace. When you begin to resonate with this higher frequency, your entire reality begins to shift. You start to perceive the world differently. You notice the beauty you were previously blind to. Your intuition awakens. You begin to attract people, circumstances, and insights that are in harmony with this new, clearer vibration. You are tuning yourself to the frequency of wisdom. How do we begin to turn this dial in a world so full of noise? We can start with a simple, practical discipline. Let us call it a sound diet or an informational fast. It is the practice of intentionally creating pockets of sensory silence in your day. For a short period, You choose to not take in any external input. Perhaps you decide to drive to work without the radio or a podcast on. You just drive in silence. Perhaps you choose to go for a 10-minute walk and leave your headphones at home, listening only to the sounds of your footsteps and the world around you. You might wash the dishes or fold your laundry without the television on in the background. When you have a spare 5 minutes, instead of immediately grabbing your phone to scroll, you could simply choose to sit and look out the window, doing nothing. When you first begin this practice, you may feel a surge of discomfort. The mind, addicted to its usual stimulation, will feel restless and bored. It will scream for its fix of noise. This is a normal part of the process. Stay with it. Breathe through the discomfort. What you will find, on the other side of that initial resistance, is a profound sense of calm. Your nervous system begins to settle. Your mind, no longer cluttered with external noise, begins to clear. In this newfound space, new ideas can surface. Solutions to problems can appear as if from nowhere. You begin to hear the subtle, quiet voice of your own intuition. You are giving your soul a chance to finally speak, and for you to finally be quiet enough to listen. As you practice this, you begin to experience silence, not as an absence, but as a palpable presence. It is the silent, vibrant aliveness you can feel in a quiet room. It is the stillness that holds the rustling of the leaves on a tree. It is the vast, intelligent quiet that permeates the starry night sky. You learn to actively listen for the silence, to feel it as a nourishing and intelligent field of energy that is holding and supporting you in every moment. It is not empty space. It is a space that is full of peace, full of life, and full of potential. To plant the beautiful flowers of peace, love, and wisdom in the garden of your mind, you must first cultivate the rich, fertile soil of silence. It is time to turn down the volume of the world's static so that you can finally hear the subtle, beautiful music of your own being. Do not be afraid of the silence. It is your greatest friend. It is your sanctuary, your place of profound reconnection and recalibration. It is in this vibrant, living silence that your energy is restored, your wisdom is awakened, and you align yourself with the beautiful, harmonious frequency of life itself. We have now explored a rich landscape of inner practices. We have learned to anchor ourselves in the breath, to witness our mind as a sky or a river, to embrace impermanence, to rest in the silent gaps between thoughts, and to meet our reality with acceptance and compassion. Now, we must address the most practical and persistent challenge that arises when we try to apply these teachings: the simple, maddening fact that the mind will not stay still. This section is a compassionate guide to the actual, moment-to-moment reality of practice. It is about what to do when you sit down to be the silent sky and are instead met with a hurricane of distraction. The single greatest source of frustration and failure in any contemplative practice is a fundamental misunderstanding of the goal. We have been subtly conditioned to believe that the purpose of meditation is to stop thinking, to achieve a state of perfect, blissful, and empty-minded silence. With this goal in mind, we sit down, close our eyes, and for a few seconds it might be quiet. But then, inevitably, a thought appears. A to-do list, a worry about a future event, a line from a song, a memory from childhood, and our immediate conclusion is, "I've failed. I can't do this. My mind is too busy. I am bad at meditation." This is a universal experience, and it is based on a false premise. The goal of this practice is not to stop thinking. The mind's nature is to produce thoughts, just as the heart's nature is to beat. Trying to forcibly stop your mind from thinking is as futile and as stressful as trying to forcibly stop your heart from beating. The true goal is not to end the stream of thought, but to change your relationship to it. The goal is to develop the muscle of awareness itself. This creates a powerful internal conflict between our expectations and reality. We expect a serene sanctuary, but what we find is the noisy marketplace of our own mind. This gap can be profoundly discouraging, and in this moment of perceived failure, our inner critic, the harsh drill sergeant of our psyche, takes over. It attacks us with judgment. You failed again. You can't even focus for 10 seconds. You are hopeless at this. Why even bother? This voice turns the practice of meditation, which is meant to be an act of self-kindness, into another arena for self-punishment. The core conflict of practice is between this harsh inner critic who demands perfection and the gentle, firm voice of an inner teacher who understands that the process is messy and that the only thing that matters is to begin again. To cultivate this inner teacher, let us use a simple and compassionate metaphor. Imagine that your faculty of attention is an adorable, energetic, and very undisciplined young puppy. You bring this puppy to a soft blanket, which represents your breath, and you gently command it, "Stay." For a moment, the puppy might stay, looking up at you with loving eyes. But then, a butterfly flits past a fascinating thought. The puppy's ears perk up, and in an instant, it has abandoned the blanket and is joyfully chasing the butterfly across the lawn. A few moments later, it smells something interesting in the boucher's memory and it bounds off in a new direction. This is the nature of your attention. It is a playful puppy. Now, what is the wise way to train this puppy? If you leap to your feet, screaming at the puppy for being bad, for disobeying you, for being so easily distracted, you will accomplish nothing positive. You will only make the puppy frightened, anxious, and less likely to trust you in the future. It will learn to associate the blanket with punishment. This is the inner critic's approach. The wise and compassionate trainer, however, simply notices that the puppy has wandered off. Without any anger or drama, with a heart full of patience, they call it back. "Here, boy, come on back." They gently lead it back to the blanket and have it stay again, knowing full well that they will have to repeat this process 1,000 more times. This patient, loving return is the training. This leads us to the most vital and liberating reframing in all of meditation. The moment you get lost in thought is not a failure. The moment you notice that you have been lost in thought is the moment of success. That instant of recognition, my mind has wandered, is a perfect moment of mindfulness. It is a moment of waking up from the dream of thinking. The subsequent, gentle, non-judgmental act of escorting your attention back to the breath is the single most important exercise you can do. It is the bicep curl for the muscle of awareness. The practice is not defined by how long you can stay on the breath. The practice is defined by the quality and kindness of your return, again and again and again. Each return is a victory. Each return is a perfect repetition. To add a dimension of strength to this gentleness, we can use another metaphor, the forging of a sword. A master swordsmith creates a blade that is both incredibly strong and flexible, not with one single mighty blow of a giant hammer, but through thousands upon thousands of small, precise, and repeated taps. Each time you notice your mind has wandered from the breath, and you gently guide it back, you are one of these taps of the hammer. You are tempering the steel of your awareness. With each return, you are making your attention stronger, more resilient, sharper, and more flexible. It is not a dramatic or glamorous process. It is a patient, repetitive, and humble craft. But the cumulative effect of these thousands of gentle returns is the forging of a mind that is powerful, clear, and unwavering, a tool of immense clarity and peace. The entire practice hinges on the tone of your return. If you bring your attention back to the breath with a frustrated, forceful sigh hug, thinking again, you are reinforcing the inner critic and strengthening the habit of self-aggression. You are hitting the puppy. But if your return is gentle, forgiving, and light, there's that thinking mind again. Okay, let's come back home. You are strengthening the inner nurturer. You are cultivating a friendship with yourself. This gentle attitude is what makes the practice sustainable. It transforms it from a grim duty into a loving act of self-care. It is about offering yourself the same boundless patience you would offer to a child learning to walk. They will fall down 1,000 times. You do not scold them. You simply help them up, encourage them, and let them try again. Therefore, let go of the ideal of a perfect meditation. There is no such thing. Embrace the messy, imperfect, and beautiful reality of your own human mind. Sit down to practice with the kind patience of a puppy trainer. Sit down with the humble persistence of a blacksmith. Know that the magic is not in achieving some mythical state of perpetual, thought-free bliss. The magic, the transformation, and the strength are all forged in the simple, courageous, and endlessly repeated act of beginning again. This is the heart of true discipline. It is not a harsh, rigid force that you impose upon yourself. It is a gentle, loving, and unwavering commitment to returning. It is the discipline of coming home, again and again and again. As our practice deepens, as we become more adept at resting in the quiet space of awareness, a new quality begins to emerge in our relationship with life. It is a sense of space, a gentle distance between our true self and the drama of our thoughts and emotions. This quality is often called detachment, and for many, it is one of the most frightening and misunderstood words in the entire spiritual lexicon. We hear the word detachment, and we imagine a cold, aloof, and uncaring state of being. We picture someone who is disconnected from life, indifferent to the suffering of others, and incapable of true passion or love. This is a profound and tragic misinterpretation. True detachment is not a cold withdrawal from life. It is the key that unlocks a warmer, freer, and more authentic way of loving and living than we have ever known. Let us dismantle this misunderstanding. Spiritual detachment is not a detachment from other people, from our work, or from the world. It is a detachment from our rigid, anxious, and self-centered expectations about those things. It is a release of our personal agenda for how we think things should be. To be detached is to love someone with your whole heart, but without needing them to behave in a specific way to make you feel secure. It is to engage in your work with total passion and excellence, but without your sense of self-worth being dependent on the outcome of that work. It is to care deeply about the world, while simultaneously letting go of your need to control it. Detachment is freedom from the tyranny of a desired outcome. It is the end of the inner bargaining and manipulation we engage in to try and force life to conform to our preferences. Here, we must draw a sharp and vital distinction between love and attachment. We have been conditioned to believe that they are the same thing, but they are, in fact, opposites. Attachment is rooted in fear. It says, I need you. I need you to be a certain way, to say certain things, to never leave me so that I can feel whole and secure. Attachment is a transaction. It is a contract with unspoken clauses. It is the source of jealousy, possessiveness, neediness, and the agonizing anxiety of potential loss. It is a closed, tight, grasping fist. True love, on the other hand, is rooted in freedom. It says, I see you. I wish for your ultimate happiness and liberation, independent of my own needs. Love is an offering, not a demand. It is expansive, open, and generous. It is an open, radiating hand. The practice of detachment is the courageous process of unclenching the fist of attachment so that the open hand of true love can emerge. This creates a powerful internal conflict because a part of us believes that our anxious clinging is the proof of our love. We think, if I am not worried sick about my children, does that mean I don't love them? We think, if I am not desperately attached to my partner, does that mean our connection is weak and I will lose them? We have mistaken the painful friction of the chain for the warmth of the embrace. We are afraid that if we let go of our anxious grip, we will stop caring. The conflict is between this deep, conditioned fear that detachment means indifference and the emerging, liberating truth that our attachment is the very thing that poisons our love, suffocates others, and fuels our own anxiety. We are afraid to let go of the very thing that is causing us pain. To illuminate the nature of this detached, unconditional love, let us use the metaphor of the sun. The sun shines. That is its nature. It pours forth its light and its warmth in all directions, freely, constantly, and without condition. The sun does not shine only on the beautiful flowers and withhold its light from the weeds. It does not demand that a tree must grow in a certain shape to be worthy of its warmth. It does not get angry if the clouds temporarily obscure it from view. It does not demand that the planets must thank it for the life it gives them. The sun has no personal agenda. It is not attached to the outcome of its own shining. Its nature is simply to radiate, to give, to be a source of warmth and light, because that is what it is. It is immensely powerful, generous, and life-giving, precisely because its giving is unconditional. This is the model for detached love. It is a love that radiates from your being, not as a transaction, but as a pure expression of your own fullness. The core message, the great paradoxical truth, is this: by detaching from the outcome, you become free to love the person, the project, or the process more completely and authentically than ever before. When you are no longer trying to control someone, you are free to simply enjoy them. When your self-worth is no longer tied to the success of your work, you are free to engage in that work with a sense of joyful play and creativity. Your love and your attention are no longer contaminated by your own private fears and selfish needs. You can be fully present with someone, offering them the priceless gift of your pure, non-judgmental awareness, because you are not secretly trying to get something from them in return. Detachment is not a closing down of the heart. It is the brave and radical opening of the heart to a love that is vast, fearless, and free from the prison of I, me, and mine. 1. We can cultivate this state with a simple and beautiful inner practice. The next time you feel a wave of love or care for another person, notice the immediate, conditioned habit. The habit is to project that feeling outward as a hook. I feel this love for you, therefore you must now fulfill my needs. Instead, pause. First, bring your attention inward. Notice where you feel the sensation of love in your own body. It is often a feeling of warmth, openness, or a gentle expansion in the center of your chest. For a moment, just cherish this feeling within yourself. Recognize it as a beautiful state of your own being. It is your warmth, your capacity for love. Anchor yourself in this feeling of inner fullness. Then, from this place of self-sufficiency, consciously radiate that feeling of warmth outward, like the sun. Send it out as a free gift, a blessing, a simple wish for the other's well-being, with absolutely no strings attached. You are not seeking a specific response. You are not trying to get anything back. You are simply sharing the overflow of the love that you have first found within yourself. You radiate warmth, and then you release the outcome. This principle extends far beyond our personal relationships. You can apply it to your work, your creative pursuits, your health, your entire life. Engage with your life's projects with passion, dedication, and excellence, but practice a quiet inner detachment from the results. Do your absolute best, and then let go of the outcome. This is the secret to fearless action. When your identity is no longer entangled with success or failure, you are free to take risks, to be bold, to be creative, without the crippling fear of what might happen. You discover a deep peace in the process itself, rather than holding your breath for a future result. Do not be afraid of this word, detachment. Reclaim it from its cold and sterile reputation. See it for what it truly is, the warm, radiant freedom of the sun. It is the conscious choice to move from a life governed by fear and control to a life guided by love and freedom. By loosening your anxious grip on the people and circumstances of your life, you do not lose them. On the contrary, you finally allow them the space to be themselves, and you give yourself the freedom to love them as they are. This is the profound, warm, and unshakable peace that arises when you learn to shine your light upon the world freely, without condition, and without demanding anything in return. This detached, loving awareness we have spoken of, this warmth of the sun that gives without condition, must find a place to shine. But where? Where do we direct this newfound presence? For so long, we have been taught a grand illusion, a subtle but pervasive falsehood that has become the very architecture of our discontent. We have been taught that the sacred and the mundane are two different things, that peace is a special event, and that awakening is a destination reserved for mountaintops, monasteries, or moments of dramatic revelation. And so, we become spiritual collectors, spiritual tourists in our own lives. We gather books, we bookmark podcasts, we save quotes, we plan for the retreat that will finally fix us, the teacher who will hand us the key, the one future moment when the conditions will be perfect for our peace to begin. We treat enlightenment as if it were a rare artifact in a museum, something to be admired from behind a velvet rope, something to be acquired. The ego, in its infinite cleverness, simply changes its costume. It ceases to hunt for material wealth and begins to hunt for spiritual experiences, collecting them like trophies to adorn a fragile sense of self. It creates a hierarchy of moments. This moment, washing the dishes, is worthless. But that future moment, sitting in silent retreat, that is a golden moment. This is the great spiritual bypass. This is the core delusion that keeps us forever seeking and never finding. It is the belief that here is not the place, and now is not the time. But the most profound secret is not a secret at all. It is a truth hidden in plain sight, so obvious that we overlook it in our frantic search for something more complex. The secret is this: your point of contact with reality, with God, with the universe, with your own deepest self, is always, and only, now. There is no other place for you to be. Therefore, there is no other place for the sacred to be. The profound realization is not that you must escape the mundane to find the sacred, but that you must infuse the mundane with sacred attention. Life itself is the practice. The kitchen sink can be as holy as any cathedral. The morning commute can be as profound a pilgrimage as any journey to a distant land. The conflict is not between your life and your spiritual path. Your life is the spiritual path. There is no other. The universe does not hide its wisdom on a high shelf that only the worthy can reach. It offers it in every single sensation, every object, every breath. We are the ones who label it ordinary and turn away, chasing a phantom of the extraordinary that exists only in our minds. You do not need to journey to a temple. You are the temple. Your body, this very form, is the sacred space. The rhythm of your heart is its drumbeat. The flow of your breath is its sacred incense. Your senses are the windows through which the divine light of existence pours in. And this very moment, this sliver of time, is the altar. An altar is simply a point of focus, a place where we make an offering. In the temple of the now, the only offering required is your presence, your full, undivided attention to what? To anything, to everything, to the feeling of the floor beneath your feet, to the taste of water, to the sight of light filtering through a window. These are not distractions from the path. They are the paving stones of the path itself. So let us try an experiment. Let us choose a single, mundane act, an act you have performed thousands of times on autopilot, your mind a million miles away. Perhaps it is the simple act of washing a single coffee cup after you have finished your morning drink. This will be your meditation. This will be your prayer. This cup will be your scripture. Normally, you would rush through it, your thoughts already on the next task, the next worry, the next email. But not this time. This time, you approach the sink as if it were an altar. You turn on the water, and you listen, truly listen, to the sound it makes as it flows from the tap. You feel the temperature of the water on your hands, not just as hot or cold, but as a complex field of sensation. You pick up the cup. You feel its weight, its solidity. You feel the smooth curve of its handle, the slight texture of the ceramic. You are not just holding a cup, you are exploring the universe of the cup. You apply the soap, you see the iridescent colors of the bubbles, you smell its clean fragrance. As you wash, you feel the friction of the sponge against the surface. You are entirely absorbed in this singular, simple reality. Your mind will wander. This is its habit. It will pull you into a memory or a future plan. And when it does, you do not scold it. You simply notice, and with the same gentle care you are using to wash the cup, you guide your attention back. Back to the sound of the water, back to the feeling of the ceramic, back to the present moment. In these few minutes of washing a single cup, you have achieved more than in 1,000 hours of distracted, wishful thinking about a future peace. Why? Because anxiety, worry, and fear are phantoms that live exclusively in the past and the future. They cannot survive in the raw, sensory reality of the present moment. When you are fully absorbed in the feeling of warm water on your skin, there is no room for the ghost of yesterday's mistake or the specter of tomorrow's deadline. You have starved your anxiety of its only food source, your attention. You have reclaimed your consciousness. This is not a chore. This is an act of rebellion. It is a rebellion against the tyranny of the distracted mind, against a culture that tells you that you must always be doing more, faster, better. To stand still and wash a single cup with your full being is a radical act of self-possession. It is a declaration that you are the master of your own attention, the sovereign of your own inner kingdom. You can extend this practice to anything: brushing your teeth, feel the bristles on your gums, the taste of the paste, making your coffee, smell the grounds, hear the gurgle of the machine, feel the warmth of the mug, walking to your car. Feel each footstep as it connects with the ground, feel the air on your skin, notice the quality of the light. Each moment becomes an opportunity. Not an opportunity to achieve anything, but an opportunity to be present, to be aware, to be home. We believe that peace is a state we must build, a fragile structure we must construct through great effort. But this is not true. Peace is the foundation. It is the ground upon which the chaos of the mind plays out. By anchoring yourself in the raw data of the present moment, in the taste, touch, sight, sound, and smell of your life, you are not building peace. You are simply returning to the peace that has been there all along, waiting patiently beneath the noise. When you begin to treat your life in this way, when every moment becomes a potential point of sacred contact, something miraculous begins to happen. The distinction between the mundane and the profound begins to dissolve. The search ends because you realize there was never anything to find, only something to notice. You stop trying to escape your life and you begin to inhabit it. And when you fully inhabit your inner world with this quality of reverent attention, you might begin to notice that the outer world responds in kind. When you stop treating the world as a series of obstacles and obligations and begin to perceive it as a sacred space, you will find that the space itself begins to treat you as sacred in return. This transforms your relationship with everything. It is a shift not in what you do, but in the quality of consciousness you bring to the doing. And this leads us to a profound law of the universe, the law of reflection. For the universe is, and has always been, a perfect mirror. The universe is a perfect mirror. It does not judge, it does not invent, it does not deceive. It simply and with flawless accuracy reflects back to you the truth of your own inner state. We have spent lifetimes trying to understand this principle, often distorting it into a transactional tool. We have been told that if we just think positive thoughts, we will attract positive things, as if the cosmos were a great vending machine that dispenses rewards in exchange for the correct currency of affirmations. And so, many have tried this, chanting mantras of wealth while their hearts beat with the drum of lack, affirming love while their being radiates a frequency of fear and insecurity. And when the mirror of the world fails to reflect the riches and romance they have been asking for, they feel betrayed. They conclude that the principle is a lie, or that they are unworthy of its gifts. But the mirror never lies. It is not responding to the superficial chatter of your thinking mind. It is not listening to the words you say. It is responding to the frequency you embody, the deep, foundational vibration of your state of being. The universe does not attract what you want, it attracts what you are. This is a truth of immense power, and one that the ego fiercely resists, because it means the end of blame. It means the end of victimhood. The default state of the unenlightened mind is to see the world as the cause and our inner state as the effect. The traffic jam made me angry. My partner's comment made me sad. The news report made me anxious. In this model, we are a powerless vessel tossed upon the waves of an external world. We see ourselves as the target of circumstance. But the mirror principle reverses this flow of creation. It reveals that the inner state is the cause, and the outer world is the effect. The world is not happening to you. The world is responding from you. The world is a vast echo chamber. If you scream into it with a heart full of anger and frustration, you will only hear angry and frustrating echoes returning. Surrounded by these echoes, you will naturally conclude that you live in an angry and frustrating world. If you whisper into it from a place of deep stillness and acceptance, the echoes that return will be peaceful and accepting, and you will conclude that the world is a benevolent place. The chamber does not change. The broadcast does. Consider the futility of standing before a mirror with a deep frown on your face and yelling at your reflection, "Smile." You can beg it, command it, threaten it. The reflection cannot smile as long as you are frowning. To try and force the reflection to change first is an act of insanity. Yet, this is precisely how we have been taught to live. We try to manipulate the world, to control people, to rearrange circumstances, to force the reflection to smile so that we can finally feel happy. We exhaust ourselves in this futile effort, trying to polish the mirror when the work has always been, and will always be, on the face that is looking into it. When you change the face, the reflection must, by an inexorable law of nature, change with it. This is the seat of all true power. Do not try to change the world. Change the quality of the consciousness you are bringing to the world. Cultivate inner peace, and you will begin to perceive a peaceful world. Cultivate a heart of love, and you will find love reflected in the most unexpected places. This is not a fanciful metaphor, it is a principle of energetic resonance. So how do we practice this? We practice it with a discipline I call inner first. Before you engage with the outer world, you engage with your inner world. Consider a difficult conversation you must have, or a stressful meeting you must attend. The normal approach is to brace for impact, to walk in carrying all your anxiety, your defensiveness, your preconceived notions. You enter the situation as a field of resistance, and the mirror of the world dutifully reflects resistance back to you. The inner first approach is different. Before you enter that room, before you make that call, you find 2 minutes. You find a quiet corner, a stairwell, even the privacy of a bathroom stall. You close your eyes. You take one deep, conscious breath, then another, and a third. You are not trying to force a positive outcome. You are not visualizing success. You are doing something far more powerful. You are simply letting go of your resistance to the present moment. You are finding that place of stillness within you, the anchor of your own awareness. You set your inner tone to one of calm, centered presence. You become the quiet eye of the storm before you walk into the wind. When you then enter that meeting or begin that conversation, you are a different person. You have not changed the other people. You have not changed the external circumstances. You have changed the source of the broadcast. You now enter not as a jittery bundle of reactive nerves, but as a field of quiet presence. And this presence is a power. It is a silent force that changes the energetic chemistry of the room. Your calmness subtly invites calmness in others. Your non-reactivity gives their reactivity nothing to cling to. You listen more deeply, you speak more clearly. You are no longer trying to control the reflection. You are simply being the state you wish to see reflected. You will find that meetings become more productive, conversations more harmonious. Not always, not perfectly, but the shift will be undeniable. You have taken your power back from the world and rooted it in the only ground you truly own, your own state of being. This is the deeper meaning of creating your own reality. It is not about magical thinking. It is about radical responsibility for your own inner landscape. Every moment, you are broadcasting a frequency. Is it the frantic static of anxiety? Is it the heavy, dense vibration of resentment? Or is it the clear, coherent signal of presence? Listen to the echo your life is sending back to you. It is your most honest teacher. If your life is full of drama and conflict, look for the part of you that resonates with drama and conflict. If your life is filled with rushing and stress, look for the part of you that is addicted to the energy of rushing and stress. The world is not punishing you. It is merely showing you your own reflection with perfect, impersonal love. By cultivating inner silence, as we have discussed, you are changing your fundamental frequency. You are tuning your instrument to the key of peace. And when you are tuned to peace, the universe has no choice but to play peaceful music with you. People and opportunities that vibrate on a frequency of chaos will naturally begin to fall away, not through any effort of yours, but because they can no longer find a resonant foothold in your being. And people and situations that align with clarity and peace will begin to appear, drawn to the clarity and peace you are now embodying. This is an empowering and profound practice. It shifts you from being a pawn of fate to being the conscious creator of your experience. But even this powerful practice has a limit. The ego, ever so cunning, can take this teaching and turn it into another strategy for control. Now I know the secret, it says. I will master my inner state so that I can finally control the outer world to my liking. But what happens when you have done the work, when you have set your inner tone, and the mirror still reflects back a storm? What happens when it reflects back loss, or sickness, or a reality that you cannot change and do not want? This is the final exam. This is where the path moves beyond creation and into the ultimate strength. For there is a power even greater than changing the reflection. It is the power to be at peace with the reflection, no matter what it shows. It is the wisdom of knowing when to stop, trying to change the face in the mirror, and to simply let it be. This is the movement from action to allowance, from control to trust. This is the surrender that is not weakness, but the highest form of strength. And so we arrive at the final doorway of our inner work. We have learned to observe our minds, to anchor in the present, to inhabit our lives with sacred attention. We have come to understand the universe as a perfect mirror, learning to cultivate the inner state we wish to see reflected in the outer world. This is a practice of immense power. It is the path of the conscious creator. But what happens when the mirror shows you a fire? What happens when it reflects back a storm that you cannot tame, a loss that you cannot reverse, a pain that you cannot think your way out of? What happens when the face looking into the mirror is weeping, and no amount of inner work can seem to stop the tears? It is here that the path of the Creator reaches its noble limit. It is here that we are invited into an even deeper, more profound state of being. We are invited to learn the wisdom of surrender. In our world, the word surrender is laced with the poison of defeat. It conjures images of failure, of giving up, of waving a white flag in the face of a superior enemy. The ego, our inner warrior programmed for survival, despises this word above all others. Its entire identity is built on resistance, on fighting, on striving, on overcoming. The ego tells you that to surrender is to die, but this is the great inversion of truth. The spiritual path teaches the exact opposite. The fight is the sickness, the surrender is the cure. The resistance is the poison, the release is the antidote. Surrender is not the act of a coward, it is the ultimate act of courage. It is the profound intelligence to recognize that you are engaged in an unwinnable war, the war against reality. Every moment you spend arguing with what is, you are pouring your life force into a black hole of suffering. The situation itself is one layer of experience. Your resistance to it is a second, and far heavier, layer of self-inflicted pain. Surrender is the simple, courageous act of putting down the weapons and ending the inner war. Think of the mighty oak tree, a symbol of strength and rigidity. It stands proud and unmoving, its massive trunk a testament to its resistance against the elements. In a light breeze, it appears powerful, dominant, but when the great hurricane comes, its very strength becomes its fatal weakness. The branches that refuse to bend crack. The trunk that refuses to yield splits and shatters. The oak is broken by the storm precisely because it resists. Now, consider the willow tree growing by the riverbank. It appears delicate, humble, almost weak. It offers no resistance to the wind. When the great storm comes, the willow bends. It bows so low its leaves touch the raging water. It dances with the gale, yielding its form completely to the power passing through it. It offers no fight. And when the storm has passed, the mighty oak lies in ruins, but the supple willow rises again, unharmed, its leaves shimmering in the quiet aftermath. The willow survives because it knows the wisdom of surrender. Your anxiety, your obsessive thinking, your desperate need to control every outcome, this is the rigidity of the oak. It feels like strength, but it is the architecture of your collapse. Surrender is the wisdom of the willow. This is not a call to inaction or passivity. This is the most common misunderstanding. Surrendering to the reality of a diagnosis does not mean you stop seeking treatment. Surrendering to the reality of a financial crisis does not mean you stop looking for a job. The willow, after the storm, is still a willow. It still draws water from the earth and light from the sky. The difference lies in the quality of the action. Action born from resistance is frantic, fearful, and tense. It is inefficient and exhausting. Action born from surrender is calm, clear, and powerful. It is an intelligent cooperation with reality rather than a desperate fight against it. You cease trying to command the wind, and instead you learn to adjust your sails with grace. This is the difference between struggle and flow. The core of this practice lies in a subtle but crucial distinction. Surrender is not giving up, it is giving over. Giving up is an act of despair. It says, there is no hope. Giving over is an act of trust. It says, my limited, fearful mind does not have the solution. I will release my desperate grip and allow a larger intelligence to work through me. You give over your anxiety. You give over your meticulously crafted 5-year plans. You give over your need to understand why this is happening. You give it all over to the process of life itself. Whether you call this intelligence God, the universe, the Tao, or simply reality, does not matter. The name is a finger pointing to the moon. The act of release is the destination. It is the humble admission that the waves are larger than your boat, and your only true power is to become a master sailor, not to become the master of the sea. So, how do we practice this, especially in a moment of peak anxiety, when the inner storm is raging and every instinct screams to fight? In that very moment, you must remember the willow. First, you stop. You cease all mental argumentation with reality. You let the thoughts be there, but you withdraw your belief in them. Second, you soften. Consciously and intentionally, you soften your body, unclench your jaw, drop your shoulders, release the tightness in your stomach, let your hands fall open. Your body has been a suit of armor, and you are now giving it permission to stand down. And third, you speak the words, silently or aloud. I surrender. I let go. I trust the process of life. Do not just say the words. Feel them. Feel the act of laying down a tremendously heavy burden that you have been carrying for so long. Feel the release. It may be terrifying at first. The ego will scream that you are letting go of the controls, but you will soon discover that you were never in control to begin with. You were only holding a disconnected steering wheel, exhausting yourself by turning it, believing you were steering the ship. This act of giving over, of embodying the willow, is the source of unshakable peace. A peace that is not dependent on circumstances being good or bad. It is a peace that exists beneath circumstances. As long as you are fighting the reflection in the mirror, you are bound to it, a prisoner of its every move. The moment you surrender to the reflection, you are free. You have found a place of rest that cannot be disturbed by the winds of the world. This profound act of surrender does the most remarkable thing. By ending the inner war, it creates a vast, silent space within you, a space that was previously filled with the noise of resistance, planning, and fear is now quiet. And in this newfound stillness, once the battle is truly over, a deeper question can finally emerge. In this silence, you can begin to wonder not just about your reaction to the world, but about the very nature of the world itself. Having surrendered to the play, you have created the inner space to remember that you might just be the actor. Having ceased your fight with the dream, you create the profound possibility of waking up and realizing you are, and always have been, the dreamer. In the profound silence born from surrender, when the inner war is finally over, something extraordinary occurs. The world, which once seemed so solid, so threatening, so unyieldingly real, begins to change its texture. It becomes lighter, more transparent, almost luminous. It is as if the volume of reality has been turned down, and in the quiet, you can perceive its subtle, shimmering nature. This is the final and most liberating realization of all. The path inward does not just lead to peace, it leads to a fundamental shift in your perception of existence itself. It leads you to gently question the very ground you stand on. It invites you to consider a possibility that your rational mind will dismiss as madness, but that your deepest intuition will recognize as a long-forgotten truth. This life, in all its vivid, chaotic, joyful, and painful detail, has the quality of a dream. Now, to say that life is like a dream is not to devalue it. It is not to say that it is meaningless or that your feelings are not real. The terror you feel in a nightmare is absolutely real in the moment. The profound love you feel in a beautiful dream is a real and valid experience. The purpose of this realization is not to negate your experience, but to liberate you from your bondage to it. We suffer so immensely because we believe this waking state is the one and only deadly serious reality. We believe we are a singular, fragile self, born into a hard, unforgiving world with one chance to get it right. This belief is the very root of all anxiety. It is the belief that our role, our character, is all that we are, and that its fate is of absolute and final importance. But what if this is not the full story? What if this solid, seeming world is a grand cosmic play of consciousness, and you are not just one of the minor characters, but also the author, the director, and the silent audience watching it all unfold? Consider an actor on a stage. They have prepared for their role for months. They know the character's history, their hopes, their fears. When the lights come up, they are no longer just an actor. They become the character. They weep the character's tears. They rage with the character's fury. They love with the character's heart. Their performance is so convincing, they even convince themselves. They forget they are a celebrated performer from another city, with a life and an identity far beyond this temporary role. They have become completely lost in the play. This is the human condition. We are all actors on a vast stage, so deeply engrossed in our roles: the good parent, the struggling artist, the anxious employee, the spiritual seeker, that we have forgotten who we truly are. We have forgotten that we are the consciousness that is imagining the role into existence. Enlightenment, or awakening, is not the play ending. The curtain does not fall. It is the moment, mid-performance, that the actor remembers. While still speaking the lines, while still wearing the costume, a flicker of memory returns. Ah, that's right. I am an actor playing a part. How does this change the performance? From the outside, perhaps very little. The lines are still delivered, the actions are still taken. But for the actor, everything has changed. The suffering is gone. They can now play the part of a tragic hero with mastery and grace, without being drowned in the hero's tragic sorrow. They can experience the character's anger without being consumed by the fire of rage. They are in the play, but no longer of the play. A divine sense of playfulness enters the performance. A deep, unshakable peace underlies every scene. This is the invitation for you, to awaken right now, in the middle of your own life, to the truth of who you are. If this life is a dream, and you are the dreamer, what does that make your anxiety? It is simply a recurring nightmare. It is a frightening sequence in a film you are projecting onto the screen of your own awareness. It feels utterly real and threatening to the character in the dream. But you, the dreamer, are not in danger. You are the source of the dream. You are the consciousness in which the fearful thoughts appear and disappear. How can the dreamer be harmed by their own dream? How can the screen be burned by the image of fire projected upon it? This realization is the ultimate dissolution of fear. You see that you are not the fragile character trembling in the dark, but the vast, silent, immortal space in which the entire dream of life is taking place. This is not just a lofty philosophical concept, it is a practical tool for living. You can bring this awareness into your day with a simple, transformative question. Whenever you find yourself in a state of fear, contraction, or worry, gently ask yourself, if this were a dream, how would I act right now, faced with a situation that causes you social anxiety? If this were just a dream, perhaps you would speak with effortless confidence and authenticity, mired in worry about the future. If this is my dream, perhaps you would trust the unfolding of the plot, knowing that you, the dreamer, are ultimately safe. This question is a key that unlocks the cage of the character's limited identity. It allows you to access the freedom, courage, and unconditional love that is the nature of the dreamer. It allows you to play your part with mastery and joy, rather than suffer through it as a victim. We began this journey by acknowledging the ceaseless hum of anxiety, the feeling of being a small, troubled self in a vast and overwhelming world. We have walked a path inward, through the storms of the mind, learning to anchor in the breath, to accept what is, to surrender to the flow. And it has all led us here, to this final, liberating vista. The goal was never to silence the hum by force. It was to awaken to the realization that you are the silent, spacious room in which the hum appears. The journey was not about fixing a broken self. It was about remembering the whole, perfect, dreaming consciousness that you have always been. This is the ultimate rest. A rest that is not just a temporary reprieve from anxiety, but a permanent return home to your true nature. You are the dreamer. And now, it is time for the dreamer to rest, to let this dream become peaceful, serene, and filled with a quiet, luminous light. All is well. You are safe. You are home. Imagine, for a final moment, that your inner world is a garden. When our journey began, perhaps this garden felt like a forgotten, overgrown place. Its paths were lost beneath the tangled weeds of incessant worry, the persistent vines of what-ifs and if-onlys. The soil was hard and dry, packed down by the weight of past regrets, and the air was heavy with the coming storms of future anxieties. We felt like helpless trespassers in this chaotic landscape, lost and overwhelmed. But throughout our time together, we have walked these paths and begun the gentle work of a tender. We learned to first simply see the garden for what it was, without judgment, recognizing that we are not the weeds, but the quiet awareness that perceives them. We found our footing on the firm ground of the present moment, anchored by the rhythm of our own breath. We learned to welcome the rain of what is, understanding that acceptance is the water that softens the hardest soil. We turned toward the most frightened parts of ourselves, not with a blade, but with the warmth of compassion, holding our own anxious heart as we would a fragile seedling. And slowly, gently, we began to plant new seeds of presence, of stillness, of trust. The work of a gardener is a living process. Weeds may sprout again from old, forgotten roots. The winds of life will surely blow. But you are no longer a stranger in your own garden. You are not a victim of its weather. You have learned its ways. You now know the difference between the weeds of anxious thought and the deep-rooted plants of your own true nature. You hold the tools of awareness, the watering can of compassion, and the wisdom of the willow, which knows that to yield is to endure. The power has irrevocably shifted. It no longer belongs to the unpredictable weather of the world, but to the wise and gentle gardener within. You are the tender of your own peace. So now, let the work be done. There is nothing more to analyze tonight, nothing left to fix, no future state of being you must strive to achieve. You have returned home. The silence you have touched is not in a distant place or a future time. It has been here all along, waiting patiently beneath the noise. It is the rich, dark soil of your own being. It is the ground of all that is. Feel it now, holding you. Allow yourself to sink into its deep and dreamless embrace. Rest now. The universe is breathing with you. The silence is holding you. All is well.